Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week of Stats Over Politics. I should probably turn down the music so people can actually hear me, because still have it at 100. All right, take two. What's going on, everyone? Episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm Shaun alongside my guys, Jaevon, Kevin, and Garry. As we actually bring down the intro music again so people can continue to hear my magical voice.
Garry got a message for you on his shirt.
Oh yeah, does he?
Paying our respect? Yes, sir.
Garry wants his motherfucking respect. It's probably from me because I'm the one who disrespects him the most, but we'll see how this episode goes, as here we are, episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. But before we get into anything and everything that we're going to talk about on this week's episode, I just wanted to ask my guys, Jaevon and Kevin, you guys had an NBA draft special, and I'm just curious how it went from each of your perspectives. Jaevon, start us off.
It was lovely, getting to chat with an old friend of about 10 years, talking NBA basketball was great. I wouldn't say there were really too many surprises other than Cam Whitmore going 20th. The Kings and their draft picks didn't technically have a first round pick because they traded it to us being the Celtics. There weren't really all the trades and hype that we were kind of hearing, like, oh, Dame's going to get traded, Scoot's going to go 2, and Brandon Miller ended up going 2. There was really no shock at 1. Everybody pretty much know where that was going, but me and Kev were chatting before the podcast. Kev was like, yeah, look, we're going to do the whole first round. We're going to be up in there live. And I was like, Kev, I don't know if we should do the whole first round because the whole draft is like 4 or 5 hours. And I was like, we start getting to like pick 10. We like an hour in already.
The commercials really got us.
Yeah, that's kind of where we started getting. But it was cool though. Time kind of flew by a little bit.
What did you think, Kevin?
Oh man, I enjoyed it. I was telling Toddy, every episode that me and Toddy do, it just flies by. We just be sitting there going back and forth. A lot of people really enjoyed it. Watching the draft with us, they asked us if we were going to do football, and I was like, man, that'd be nonsense. But that'd be kind of cool if we all got together and watched the draft. The one thing that I did not like about the show, even if we did stay into the first round, the Kings didn't even end up making a pick. So we would have waited for that. Because me and Toddy were going back and forth. We were like, all right, Kings 24, Celtics 25, we're done. We would have waited all that time for one pick.
You would have been.
Yeah, I'm glad for your guys' sake that you didn't hold out just for the Kings pick, because I got to tune into it later on, and I noticed how you ended pretty much around the time that the lottery ended after like 14, 15 picks. But that was an hour and a half by itself because, like you said, the commercials got to you guys. But I'm glad that our viewers, they enjoyed watching it with you guys. And that was my main takeaway from watching you guys is after around like pick 5, I felt like I heard Jaevon say at least once before every single pick until like pick 20, this one has to be where Cam goes. Like
this has to be
where Cam goes.
Everyone.
Every single time. And it just made me laugh. I mean, they did say that according to reports during the draft that apparently Cam fell because of injury concerns. We shall see how that ends up turning out, because he went to Portland, right? Did he go to Portland or was it somewhere else? Houston. That's what it was. Is he went to Houston, and not only does Houston get Amen Thompson, but then they also get Cam Whitmore. So Houston ends up walking away with potentially 2 top 5 prospects with 2 top 20 picks. So that's pretty significant. Garry, we're going to get into the draft and the picks that actually happened in a moment, but I just wanted to get your overall thoughts on what you thought of this past draft.
No, I was just saying, shout out to our guys over here holding it down for us with a great live episode. As long as we got someone tuning in to Stats Over Politics, we always going to do our thing. Other than that, I was pretty much, to be honest with you, busy during the draft working and stuff. But I got to check their action after, and it looked like, to be honest, it looked like a solid draft where everyone, the draft is always guessing and seeing what's going to be the future. And I feel like about 1 or 2 more years, we're going to see who really hit on some draft picks. But I for sure think some teams like you guys mentioned, Houston got a few steals, and like Charlotte getting a couple good picks. I feel like some teams really made some moves in the draft lottery in the draft this year. So let's see how it pans out this offseason.
It'll be interesting without a doubt. And I just want to shout out a couple comments after we hear from Kevin.
Before we move on, it wouldn't be right if I didn't pull a Garry. I had a lot more picks right than Toddy. Toddy just did an ESPN top 14. It was like, I didn't really think about the teams. I just went with the players.
So many trades and shit happened. He was like, you sure you don't want to change any picks? I was like, no, I'm gonna rock with it, man.
I had to pull my Garry, man.
Yeah,
There you
I had the
go.
most picks.
Kevin definitely got more picks right than me.
Okay, so Jaevon backs it up, so nothing is in
Hold on
question.
real quick.
Kevin, Gary, I'll get to you, but I got an important question. This is stats over politics. Do you have the actual statistics, Kevin? Do you have the numbers of like 10 out of 14, and Jaevon got like 6 out of 14?
No, I got 4, and he got like 2. So it wasn't by far. We got along. We got a lot of them wrong.
I was about to ask Kev, like, all right, what's the mock draft like? You know, what would you use to help you to make these picks? But now I forget that question now.
It's funny because I sent Toddy my list at 2.
Yeah, and just okay, I have to ask this, and we don't have to take too much time to get into this, but this has been on my mind. I've been retweeting several tweets about it. I want to hear from the betting man first. I want to hear from the betting man first on this. What do we think about the potential Shams controversy with FanDuel? How
I saw that.
Like Brandon Moore was a lock. He was like plus 650 before Shams tweeted like 4 or 5 hours before the draft. Oh, Scoot Henderson seems to be getting some traction, and it seems potential that MJ could be targeting Scoot Henderson at 2. The numbers completely shifted. Scoot became the number 2 pick favorite, and then Scoot still goes number 3. Brandon Miller still goes number 2, and FanDuel just rakes in the money. Do you think that there is any chance, Jaevon, and I'm asking 0 to 100%, any chance that Shams and FanDuel could be colluding to put out some reports like that?
Absolutely. It's Vegas versus the world. And when you work on FanDuel TV and you're doing it, there's no doubt about that. Shams is definitely one of the top reporters in the game. Obviously before that,
Big J,
and he's definitely a big J in this league. So he was even doing some reporting, I think, on like NFL free agency too. So he's kind of sprinkling to the NFL where he's kind of his roots are in the NBA. But yeah, there were a bunch of odd shifting in FanDuel for sure. Seeing that, at first it was Brandon Miller, and then it started to shift towards Scoot, and then Scoot was the favorite, or no, Brandon Miller was the favorite like all up until like a few hours before the draft, and then it started to change. People started putting money on Scoot Henderson, and then ultimately Brandon Miller, I think like 45 minutes before the draft started, it shifted back to Brandon Miller. So it's kind of like, all right, we got to get some money in here both ways, because we got to there's a sucker out there for everybody. So somebody's going to pay this money that Scoot's going to. But you definitely could have did like a draft order on like what the top 5 would look like. It was pretty crazy. I think someone hit a parlay where it had pretty much all the picks. So they had Wemby, Brandon Miller, Scoot, and the Thompson twins going in the top 5, and they won like 100,000.
That's pretty good. What do you think, Gary?
Though. I don't know how much.
I was just saying, time is everything, man. I wouldn't. Shams trying to get his bag, FanDuel trying to get their bag, people over here betting on it trying to get their bag. So hey, that's how the game go.
Kevin, are you going to make it unanimous?
Yeah, I honestly didn't even know about this. So it was news to me.
All right, just check my timeline. I retweeted a couple things that kind of explains it. And it was just mind blowing to me because like Shams is one of the top guys out there, and like as someone who's trying to become a sports journalist himself, like that is something that you do not do. Like that goes against the integrity of it all. But I mean, that's the world that we live in now, where money, as Gary's saying, money, indicating with his fingers for the audio only listeners. That's the time and day that we live in. And also we see this sports betting just becoming more popular. There's segments in the NFL Live, NBA Today shows, picking like props and stuff like that. And that's just the world we live in. And so I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that real quick, as here we are on episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. I want to get to a couple of our YouTube comments. You can find us on YouTube at Stats Over Politics. Check out all the great content that Kevin puts up. Uncle Manny, is tuning in. He says, "Hey guys, have a great show. I'm back and really enjoy listening to your show. We
Not in
appreciate
New York,
you, Uncle
no.
Manny."
I thought he was New York Manny for a little bit.
Back on the West Coast, back on
Really
our
though.
Thought he was New York.
He
Manny.
has returned, and our favorite cousin, or one of our favorite cousins, Marcellus, taps in, says no Omarion this week. Gets a big
Yeah.
chuckle out of Jaevon, but Marcellus just wanted everyone to know his presence, and he
way.
says, "I'm here." Then we got Juan tapping in, saying, "I dropped 30 on Kevin easy." Marcellus says, "I got 40 for Vonnie."
Comments are going nuts today.
Yeah.
Gary, I don't want to find out what people think that they would drop on me or you. I mean, especially me.
Hey, I can't guard, but I can drop some buckets. I ain't gonna lie. You drop 30, I'm trying to drop 30 back.
All right.
That's
So
our
what you're,
politics 4-on-4
Kev got a
tournament.
scholarship to go play.
I'm down. I think we got a solid
Hey
squad.
man, we can take out another 4.
hey, Jaevon remembers those in and out tournaments.
Kevin did 3-star recruit.
Easy.
Hey,
Jaevon,
man.
you remember those in and out tournaments when you would just go stupid and play hero ball and just drive to the basket every single play?
He doesn't know about the tournaments.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, we got to tell you guys about that another day. But anyways, let's get to our actual topics. But if you're tuned in on YouTube, if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to help us continue growing. We really appreciate it. And for our audio only listeners, subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. All right, guys, now let's get to the actual 2023 NBA draft recap. As I mentioned earlier, Jaevon and Kevin did a great job of breaking down each pick live. So now let's just talk about our favorite moments and everything. So obviously, as is the title of this episode, Wemby fulfilled his destiny. He went number 1 overall to the Spurs. And now we see immediately after, he's meeting up with all these Spurs legends. Greg Popovich is driving up to a mural that someone is painting of Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio. And it just seems like a match made in heaven for a small market to get a generational superstar. So, Gary, I'm going to kick things off with you today. What do you think about Victor Wembanyama going to the Spurs? Not so much the pick, because that was obvious, but just what you think he could be as a player in the NBA legitimately.
To be honest with you, I didn't really watch him, to be honest with you, until like obviously the hype really started around like last few months, especially during the season when they were like taking pictures with Rudy Gay and things of that nature, and he was visiting a couple of the NBA teams.
Gobert.
Rudy Gobert, I meant. But yeah, I was just gonna. And I watched his interview with JJ Redick. That was like my first like live, other than like the Brian Windhorst little celebration when they was so happy, so happy that San Antonio got the pick. Man, he's a really nice, cool guy. He comes across as very wise for his age and mature, and seems like he's ready to take that mantle, which is really cool to see from a player that young and with that much hype around him that he's even keeled and ready to take over the league. And he doesn't want, you can tell he doesn't want it easy. He wants to take it the hard route. He wants to, get the respect around the league, around the players. When he says, that he should gain weight. He was like, well, don't worry about my weight. I'm still going to do my thing. You know what I'm saying? So that, giving him credit that he has pure confidence in his ability and that he's going to come to this league and do his thing. I think it's pretty obvious that, that his game is going to be pretty translatable. It's just going to be him just adjusting in the beginning. Now, is he going to drop 30 out the gate? I don't know about that, but will he one day reach the 30-point mark as an average, especially sooner rather than later? I feel like for sure he is going to. Like Shaun mentioned, him just already connecting with all the greats. Like, there's no better situation for a player, I feel like, to go to. Like we already talked about when the Spurs first got this first overall draft pick, that they have a lineage of great guys in that team, legendary guys like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, who are also from foreign countries. So I feel like he just went to a perfect place for him. He's learned under what guy, like what kind of double blessing you get to that organization first, get to a team that has that type of already temperament and climate, and also get a great coach, one of the best coaches ever in the NBA, got to stick around. And thank God Greg Popovich got to stick around and get maybe at least 1 year with another great Hall of Famer, potential Hall of Famer one day if all the ducks line up right for Victor. So I feel like he's going to be a great player in the NBA. I feel like now he just got to put pen to paper right here, which is feet on the court and just get in them trenches and start working his way up in this league. But in terms of him just being the box office, I feel like he's always starting to check that off. Him just being a leader and just looking like he's ready to take, like, I guess maybe even LeBron's mantle of being the face. He looked like he's ready for that already. Looked like he's just ready for everything. Throw all the weight on the world on him, and he's going to do his thing. So in terms of him on the court, I feel like everything's going to pretty much be translatable. He has a solid shot. He's big. He's lengthy. He can get around. He can move. I feel like that's a key thing right in this game, that he can move and he can move as a guard. So let's see how it translates to the league. But I think he's going to show that I've been doing it my whole life, and he's going to make it translate. That's how much of a great talent he is.
Jaevon, when the Spurs got the first overall pick in the lottery, and there was the whole Brian Windhorst interview with Victor Wembanyama right after, I kind of was excited for the Spurs because they've had a lot of down years since they had like 20 straight years of not missing the playoffs. And then it started to factor into my brain how they did have 20 straight years of making the playoffs, and they did win 5 championships. And so Spurs fans are kind of spoiled. Now they've gone 5-6 years. And I say that as a Kings fan, but Spurs fans are kind of spoiled. And now they've had 5-6 years of tough times. Jaevon, I go to you next as a Celtics fan, because even though most of it preceded when all of us were born, the Boston Celtics are a very spoiled franchise with 17 championships. And so would you have preferred to see Victor go elsewhere than a team that just had a recent dynasty in the last couple decades? Or do you think that this is a good fit in San Antonio?
We've been going back to when we had our draft lottery, like the predictions. You went on. Shaun predicted that he was going to plus 550. So if you guys would put some money,
I appreciate it. Too bad I didn't put money down.
You for sure would have won some money. Shaun didn't go with his own pick. I wanted him to originally go to Detroit. I wanted him to see that Jaden Ivey, Cade, Wemby, and just the whole Detroit. I'm like really big on like Detroit hip hop right now. So like, you know, all the guys that are like that whole like area and how it's kind of been like a melting pot, and it's been growing as a city. I thought it would have been pretty nuts for him to be in Detroit, but ends up going to a great franchise, historical franchise in San Antonio. We've always talked just throughout the year on previous episodes, like, hey, like, is Pop gonna be, you know, around for this long? You know, they were going back to even Shaun and Vaughn. We were thinking that, you know, Becky Hammond was going to be a person that would end up taking over, but she ended up going to the WNBA and getting her own gig there. So that went out the window. And then Pop was like, all right, you know, even going into last year, he was like, this is not a team that you want to, you know, put money on to win the NBA Finals. Don't go to Vegas and put whatever money on the Spurs to win a championship. So we never really knew what Pop's history would be because, you know, after the whole Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard era, that what was next? And they fall into this, I wouldn't say fall because it was very strategic how they just fell into this, you know, tanking era, and we're going to get Victor Wembanyama, and it paid off. And next thing you know, Papa signed a 3-year extension. So it was very calculated for them. It's very calculated that they went from David Robinson to Tim Duncan to Kawhi Leonard for a hot little minute, and now Victor Wembanyama. So you got to give credit to R.C. Buford and those guys over at the Spurs organization. And I don't know if Pop's going to coach for the next 20 years, but he's definitely going to be coaching next 5, maybe 5, 10 years. We see Pop coach a little bit more. So he's going to get as much out of Victor Wembanyama as possible.
So, Kevin, you're the only person that we haven't heard from on this episode of Stats Over Politics in regard to Victor Wembanyama. And so what do you think about his potential? Because, like, people are saying if he isn't better than Shaq and a bunch of the other all-time greats like Wilt and Kareem, then it was a failure. Like, there's all that discourse going around. How high do you see Victor Wembanyama's 7'5" ceiling going?
I think he could be up there with all the names you just mentioned. For him to move like a guard and also be able to have that post game, I think he's going to be able to take the Spurs organization back to the higher days, like you mentioned, Shaun. Having 20 straight years of making the playoffs with 5 championships behind big men like Tim Duncan, you know, fitting Victor Wembanyama in there is going to be perfect. But we remember with a lot of those Spurs teams, they had a lot of depth. They had a lot of other pieces. So the Spurs are a nice young team right now, and I think Victor could come in right away and, you know, possibly be an all-star year one. I think he's going to put up the numbers. He's going to play the games. He's arguably really healthy. He does a lot of stretches. He's really on top of that because he wanted to make sure that he was going to come over here and play a lot of games.
Hey, Shaun, look that up for me. Look, all-stars in their first year. I want you to do
it's a slim list.
I know it's
Slim.
very slim. So I don't. Go ahead.
Oh,
Kevin. I'll
Bron-
Well,
Yeah.
he is called Le Slim.
So, and if DeJounte Murray can take them to the plan, I think Victor Wembanyama has a good chance.
Why you gotta
Yeah,
throw
and-
Dejounte like that?
It's the
So-
truth.
Notable players to have made the NBA All-Star game as rookies. This is not Sean's pop quiz, but do we have any guesses?
LeBron's on that list.
No.
Magic Johnson.
No.
Magic Johnson, yeah, that's one.
Oh.
Bird, Magic.
Kareem.
Bird, yep. Good job, Gary. That was a
How many
that was
are
a good
there?
one with the pair. Well, at least as far as notable players, just when I Googled NBA All-Stars in first season, there, when like it pops up with like
Mhm.
a snippet of the article at the
Kareem on
top.
Yeah.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notable names. Yes, Kareem is on there, so that's 3.
Is Shaq?
Luka.
Shaq is not on there.
Luka didn't make his first year, did
Look
he?
at it, Mega.
Not
Kobe on
Luka.
there?
He's
Kobe's
Kobe.
not
Kobe's
on
not
there.
on there.
Anybody recent in the last?
Tim Duncan.
No. All right, so here's the names.
Whoa, that's really weird.
Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Bob Cousy, bunch of old names. Kareem, as was mentioned. Magic, as was mentioned. Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon,
Mhm.
and who went in the same draft as Hakeem
Michael Jordan?
Olajuwon? Michael Jordan. Yes,
Oh,
Michael
shit.
Jordan.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So, and these are names from before the 1984-85 season when both Hakeem and MJ made the All-Star team despite being rookies. So there might be some that was after 85 that I just didn't see right there. Oh, here we go. Okay. I apologize. Let's go to StatMuse. Wow. Okay. You guys would have never guessed this guy.
Tyreek Evans.
Blake Griffin was selected for the All-Star game.
Oh, he
in
had a
his
win year
rookie
Wow.
after.
Technically his second year.
It was
Yeah,
technically his
Hey,
sophomore
rookie of the
year.
year. He got the
But
he
job.
never- He did,
Yeah,
he did.
just
He
like
ain't
Ben Simmons. Okay, so some other names after 85. David Robinson, just
Okay.
like Wemby. Dikembe Mutombo. Shaquille O'Neal, so I apologize. Someone
Shaq,
said Shaq
yeah.
earlier.
Shaq
Shaq was
did.
an all-star in his first year. Tim Duncan was an all-star in his first year. So Tim Duncan,
that.
David Robinson, there's the path right there. Grant Hill and Yao Ming.
Damn, Grant Hill's on there. Yeah,
Blake
Grant Hill
Griffin
was
was
killing
the
it when he
most
first came in.
recent. Yeah, Blake Griffin was the most recent.
So a lot of legends on there except Blake Griffin.
Yeah, right.
A lot
He's
of,
a
but I mean-
legend in his own right.
No,
A legend
everybody
at dunking.
pretty much
Yeah,
everybody
and
that was
dunking in
named
his
on
own
that
right.
list
That's what I
is
mean.
in
His
the Hall
own
of Fame.
right.
Oh, okay, Gary. Okay.
That's what
Just
I meant,
okay.
though.
So this is kind of just. I just want a yes or no to this. Go ahead, Gary.
I just had a blanket statement since you threw that question to Kev about how like all like this narrative about like him being such a top prospect and things of that nature.
Mhm.
And I'm like, only thing I don't like about this narrative, I'm just like, so I've seen some people saying, I forgot who were saying it, but like them basically saying if he doesn't become top 10 ever, and basically he's a failure. And I'm just like, bro, I don't agree with that at all. Like, maybe am I blind? I don't see like the hype like that. Maybe I kind of felt that about LeBron, but then again, I still don't feel like you still gotta like do it on the court. Like you can't be a complete failure, but if you become like a top 25, top 75 player from what you were, like
Not good enough,
how many-
Gary.
I guess it's not good enough, Kev. I guess so. 'Cause I'm just like,
It's crazy.
bro, that's still gonna be a legendary career. You probably won a few rings at that for top
It's a Hall of
75 at
Fame
this
career.
point. Exactly. So I'm just like, I don't tell that's a failure, but I guess they want to start that, start that totem pole right there. So it's all good. Let's see. I think he's ready for it. So
Okay, so we mentioned a bunch of guys that made it to the All-Star game in their first year. So I got 2 questions for you guys. All I need is a yes or no just to keep things moving. First question is, do we think Victor Wembanyama will make the All-Star game in his first year? I'm going to go with yes because of the
He's a
fan
center?
vote.
Sprinkle some money on that guy.
is he technically quote unquote a center?
Sprinkle.
I think yes. I think he is a center, but I think, Gary, also that this upcoming season is going to be the first year where the All-Star game is positionless. I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I
that
was
is
gonna
the
say,
case.
yeah,
I
what position
think-
is he gonna get? Is he center or what?
But
the
then he
fuck
won't
is
get in
he?
then.
What is he?
Actually,
No, he could definitely still get in, but
If they
I'm
do
going to go
three-
with I'm going to go with yes. What do
Are
you
they
think,
doing
Gary?
2 guards and 3 forwards? Was that what they're changing to,
Well,
or was it the 2
I
forwards?
think
2
it's going to
guards?
be positionless, just like the All NBA teams.
Oh,
I
okay.
could be wrong, but I remember them discussing it and all the different changes. So I'm just going to go with yes, Jaevon. I do not have a lot of money to be risking, so I will not put money down on that, even though I am not at home right now, so I do not have the notepad. But if I did, I would write down Victor Wembanyama will be an all-star.
Oh, you don't got the notepad with you?
I don't have. I am. I am at an undisclosed location, so I do not
Undisclosed,
have.
okay.
I do not have the notepad. But anyways, so we mentioned all of those great players. I think he'll be an all-star in his rookie year. Just yes or no? Do we think that he will be an all-star? Jaevon?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay, Gary.
Just based off that list that you gave me.
No, due to number of all-stars
Kevin?
already.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say yes, and the spot he's gonna take is Sabonis's.
I was thinking that, Kev,
I was wondering why you were saying unfortunately.
I was thinking
There's
that,
gonna
but
be
I was gonna
AD,
say,
and then
Shaun,
there's
you
another
can't put
second
him
big.
You can't put in the
but the
virtual on your
positionless
phone.
makes
Well,
it
if it's
seem
positionless
like,
is different, but if it's the same way it
Yeah.
used to be, then yeah, Sabonis is gonna be the automatic.
let's assume
choice.
that's
The
what I'm
fan
saying.
vote.
I made
All right.
same. I agree with Kev. I'm not gonna lie. If it's put back to how it was, I feel like he's gonna get in because the center position is not as deep. So I feel like he would get in. But if it's positionless, it's gonna be tough because there's a lot of guards who usually don't get in because of that being log jam. So I feel like they're gonna probably trickle in then. So
Well, when I think back to, I mean, in my lifetime, I think because I will say maybe LeBron was more hyped, but I also
chosen.
wasn't cognizant to watching the NBA draft 20 years ago. And so maybe LeBron was the most hyped prospect in our lifetime, but that I can remember since I've paid attention to sports. Victor seems to be the most hyped prospect ever for me. But when I think back to the most recent hyped prospect, I think back to 2019 with Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson did make the All-Star game in his second season. And if he wasn't, I don't remember it that well, but I think he dealt with injury issues in his first season, as he has throughout his entire career. And if not for those injuries, I think he could have and would have been an all-star in his rookie year. Other than that, we go back to 2010, 2011 with Blake Griffin being an all-star. And so I'm going to be with Kevin on that one and say that I do think that Victor would be an all-star. And just the other question that I had for you guys, because we mentioned all of those great players, 2 of them being former Spurs and Tim Duncan and David Robinson that did make the all-star game as rookies. But then we also mentioned some other great bigs like a Shaquille O'Neal and a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I was looking for Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain is on the list as well. So the thing about Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Shaq, you can even throw Anthony Davis in there. They were all first overall picks at one point, and then they all eventually made their way to the Lakers. Then you have the other side of it with Tim Duncan, David Robinson, first overall picks that were big men, stayed with the Spurs their entire career. We know that ESPN loves the Lakers, and they put out that marvelous graphic saying, oh, here's all the great former number 1 overall picks that are big men that eventually went to the Lakers in their career. And then you also have Tim Duncan and David Robinson. So, Gary, I'm going to ask you first. Do you think, yes or no, do you think Victor Wembanyama will play for the Lakers at one point, even for a game, in his NBA career? Yes or no?
Shaun, you're crazy, bro. Hasn't even stepped on the court in a Spurs jersey yet, and we're already thinking about trading him. No, I don't think.
No,
so.
he can leave as a free agent, just like all those other great players. Shaq, Kareem. I think Kareem was traded, but Shaq, he left, and so Anthony Davis, he got traded, but he wanted to leave. So, I mean, I do think it's possible.
Yeah, I think he'll stay. I just think he'll stay. Just me trusting the Spurs organization would do him right. And I don't really see. I feel like a lot of foreign players, as we've seen due to history, really don't leave their current situation if they get treated right as well. So I feel like players only leave, man, if they don't get treated right. AKA LeBron, if you ain't gonna give him a team, he's gonna bounce out. Simple as it goes. And that's what other players do nowadays too. So I feel like as long as you get treated right, you're gonna be like Jokic and Giannis, and you're gonna stay put. So I feel like he's gonna get treated right, and they're gonna take care of him. So he's gonna stay at Spurs as long as he wants.
All roads lead back to LeBron, fellas.
So Kevin, what do you
Brown is
think?
gonna
Do you
retire
think
by that
do you
time.
think that he is going to end up venturing? And this is literally just asking, will he play for the Lakers? There's 28 other teams that he could potentially play for in his career other than the Spurs and Lakers. But just because of that graphic that continuously circulated throughout social media, I got to ask this question. Kevin, yes or no? Do you think Victor Wembanyama will ever play for the Lakers?
I'm going to have to second Gary and say no. Victor talked about growing up watching Dirk, watching Manu, watching Tim Duncan. Like you mentioned, they watch all these guys stay with one team. Like Gary mentioned, a lot of the foreigners do it. They're going to stay loyal to the team. They're just really just grateful to be here. And I think he's going to just repay them with whatever he can do. As many years he can do, I think he's going to stay there. And we've seen the dynasties being built together piece by piece. So like Gary mentioned, I just believe the Spurs are going to do right by him and he'll repay the favor and stay a Spur for his whole career.
I think that he'll be a Spur his entire career as well. So Jaevon, are you going to make it unanimous?
He's going to be a Celtic.
The only other team that he's going to play for is France, and that's his country. So it's definitely there's no way, no how the Spurs fumble that back and let Wemby somehow.
They did some fumble Kawhi though.
Well, we shall see. And so we just spent about 20 minutes talking about Les Lim, Big Victor Wembanyama, but there was 59 other picks in the 2023 NBA draft, including what the Sacramento Kings did not do in the first round and what they did ultimately do. We'll talk about the Richaun Holmes trade in a little bit, and that's when we can focus on the Sacramento Kings. But getting to the rest of the draft, Jaevon, I want to just get your thoughts on maybe something that could be going on. I know that's what you were alluding to there with the Richaun Holmes trade. But I wanted to just get your thoughts, Jaevon, on what were your other favorite moments from the 2023 NBA draft?
I think I speak for all hoopers here. Imani Bates getting drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, he's just a guy that, going back to his age group when he was supposed to go to college, he was picked Gatorade Player of the Year over Chet Holmgren. And Chet Holmgren was the number 1 pick in last year's draft. I believe, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, that when when Imani won the award, he went straight to college. He didn't senior year, he reclassified. He's like, you know what, I'm ready now. Let's get into it. Obviously, some life things kind of hindered him. Being at Memphis and, the off the court stuff that kind of went down with him, which led him to transfer to, Eastern Michigan State. So he's just a guy that, has kind of bounced around a little bit and had a rockier road than I feel like if he just would have played at Memphis, he'd probably still be in that conversation of just number 1 pick, top 5 pick. He's going to go down that road. Him going to Cleveland, I think he can for surely start, be a guy that's just another lethal. He's 6'9", for Christ's sake, and can score. I think he averaged 17 at Eastern Michigan. I'll probably pull up the stats to kind of back that up. But he's just been a guy that, in college, high school, can get his own bucket. Now, defense is probably something that a lot of people will be like, well, he doesn't play defense, blah, blah. He's 6'9". The defense, we'll worry about the defense later. But he's a guy that for sure can come in and get you instant buckets. I can't wait to see him in summer league. A lot of people are probably going to be kind of watching him a little bit and see what he'll look like in summer league and what his path will be. A lot of people probably think I'm crazy that's saying that he's going to be able to start, but I think he for sure has the potential to he's going to a team that can he can help this team. And obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell already. Those are their top scorers. Isaac Okoro don't give you no offense, so Imani Bates is going to come in and fill up the stat sheet, I think, for sure, in that starting role. But that was probably my most favorite pick in the draft.
Go ahead, Kev.
Man, Todd, you surprised me. I thought we were going to have the same one. Definitely Anthony Black going to the Magic. Anthony Black and Jet Howard going to the Magic. I think the two of them are going to really expand this Magic team. We talked about them.
Jet Howard for some reason. I don't know why. They're hating on him.
Jet Howard is a bucket, man. That's coming from an Ohio State guy. He's a Michigan dude. So that shows my unbias. He's a bucket. So I think he's going to come in and really help this team. We saw the emergence of Paulo Banchero. Franz Wagner coming into a sophomore. year, really just continuing to develop. They have a lot of guards over there. Me and Toddy were going back and forth, just debating the pick. And Anthony Black is kind of going to make up for the Jalen Suggs pick. You know, Jalen Suggs is not who we thought he was going to be coming out of Gonzaga. So Anthony Black at 6'7" is going to come in. He can see the whole floor and essentially be what we thought Zion would be, in my opinion. Do you think that's a good comp, Toddy?
They still got Poole? They still got Cole Anthony
Zion?
over there? Yeah, that's too many people.
Lonzo.
Oh, okay. What do you? I wanted to get your thoughts on Orlando and their lineup. What is their lineup going to look like? Because their lineup is like
They're
6,
still
7
stacked.
They're
stacked with young
they're-
guys.
At the
they're
1, you're
big.
going to go Jet. At the 2, you're probably going to go.
You said Jet at the 2,
I mean, shit. No, I meant to say
Black at the 1.
Black. You go Anthony Black at the 1. At the 2, you're probably going to go. Probably Jalen Suggs. 3, Franz Wagner. 4, Bull. I like Bull, man. Bull and Paulo. I like Bull, but
That's
probably
super
Wendell
young.
Carter. Probably
That's
Wendell
super
Carter.
young.
Probably
Okay.
the other Wagner will start too because he usually starts.
Not over Wendell though. Wendell was a bucket.
I think the lineup is Anthony Black, Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, Mo. Or you could do Mo, the other Wagner twin, and then have Wendell at the 5. That's like the whole lineup is 6'7" and up, so it's crazy. Probably not that much shooting, but
It's crazy young, but to be honest,
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
man.
You know, but to double down on this Imani Bates take, Toddy mentioned it. You know, for him to play his essentially a senior year of high school at Memphis, no one going in, he's not going to be draft eligible, so he's knowing he's in for the long haul. He's not just like these other recruits going in; they're going to be 6 months and done. For him to go to Eastern Michigan and average 19 points, 6 boards, and 3 assists, just really goes to show he's expanding his game. He shot great from the 3, shooting 36%, and I think he's going to start for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think Seti Osman is better than him. I don't think Isaiah Curro is better than him. And I damn sure don't think Karis LeVert is better than him. So I don't see why he wouldn't come in from day one and start. He's going to give them another score. That's what the Cavaliers been missing. And me and Toddy talked about it on in the group chat and previous before the draft. That's the one thing the Cavs needed was a small forward. You put him in there, that's another scoring threat. And, you know, Gary might have mentioned he doesn't play defense, but when you have 2 7-footers behind you, you don't need to play defense. So he's
Imani
gonna go
Bates?
out there
I
and
didn't say
fill
nothing about him. I didn't say nothing about him just yet. But I was just gonna say I agree with everything you guys said. To be honest with you, especially the Imani Bates kid. I was watching Gilly the Kid over there's podcast. Not Gilly the Kid, but you know what I'm saying. I just call him Gilly the Kid. But Agent Zero over there, yeah. And it was because he
No
crazy.
Chill Gil.
Yeah, he be with the crazy takes, and I love it. So it just be hella funny to watch. But he was talking about how he was going crazy too back in the day. I remember him too, like coming up and stuff like that. I know he went to Memphis and had a little bit of a stumble up, but I think, like you said, Kev, him just falling down, it's gonna be great for him. He fell into a good situation. But I know I actually wanted to talk about. I think you guys mentioned on the rundown. I don't know if I've seen this too on ESPN, since 2001, first time about 4 or 5 picks have been from other than the college level. And I was just speaking. Some people think that as a negative. I think that could be a positive, even though I put right here too. I was like, it can be a negative for the casuals like me, basically, who don't really watch college football or college basketball. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, I should probably watch college football more than college basketball, just because a lot of them, that's just the pipeline, that's the feeder system the NFL created for themselves. I feel like they have a good relationship. Where the NBA, we all know, they really don't have a too good relationship with the NCAA. And so them creating the G League and creating these multiple other leagues, which I think is so cool that basically you got multiple ways to get to the league now, and they're all looked upon as pretty even, where you can develop as a player if you want to give away some money, if you want to do this for your brand and go to the NCAA and maybe try to get a shoe deal type of situation and play in March, or you can go to these leagues where you just literally get better at your skill, play with better guys, and still have a chance to make the league. So I just feel like that aspect of it, about how now the NBA is looking positively on guys who maybe played a couple extra years here in this tournament team or whatever it is, and get a chance to really make the league. So I just feel like there's more opportunities to make the league, which is cool, I think, for the players, especially if you look more deeper now, like us as Kings fans too. Like, a lot of teams are starting to look towards more players that maybe played a little more, have a little more years under their belt in the college level, just the lower levels other than the NBA. So that's just good. We're giving them opportunity to make just fit roles in the NBA, because I know before we looked at just always seen the one and dones and the top 10 picks just be one and done, which it still obviously is, but just to see how there's more guys with more reps and things of that nature getting chances now, not looking negatively upon. Because before, for sure, you guys know what I'm saying. Like if you basically played more than 1 year, you basically looked upon as like a negative person coming into the league, like, why'd you stay so long? It's like, a scratch here when before it used to be the opposite. And I feel like kind of going back to that where it's like, hey, we could take a guy who maybe played a couple of years or 1 or 2 years and under like a pro level or maybe the college level and still have a chance to make the league. So I feel like that's really cool for the NBA to embrace that now.
So I wanted the Kings to pick Imani Bates potentially at 24 and then even into the second round. But it's hard for me to accept that the 49th overall pick is going to be a starter day one. I think that you guys are really, really, really undervaluing Isaac Okoro because Isaac Okoro, Jaevon, is a lockdown defender and a contributor. He's a role player who plays his role. That's why, as Gary would say, casuals like me, well, I'm going to throw some shade. Casuals like you guys, even though you guys aren't casuals, you may be casuals to Cleveland Cavaliers basketball, but Isaac Okoro, he was the 6th overall pick out of Auburn for a reason. Like, he is a great defender, and maybe that's what the Cavs need out of that 3 spot rather than more scoring because, hey, they do have a guy named Donovan Mitchell now, and then they also have a great young player in Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen can do his thing too. And so I'm going to push back on that. I'm going to be the one to say that call me crazy, the 49th overall pick in the draft is not going to be a day one starter. Put it on TikTok. Put it on Instagram. That's my take.
So, Shaun, you mentioned Isaiah Okoro out of Auburn was the 6th pick overall, right? Mm-hmm. So you're expecting.
Did I get that right? Okay.
But you're expecting, 6 overall pick. You're expecting something, some kind of trajectory.
Give me the numbers, Cam.
This year he averaged 6 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist.
I wasn't talking about his scoring.
But it's nothing. He's not progressing. He's never averaged over 7 points.
What's that 3-point percentage?
3-point percentage. Let me see what it's looking like.
Oh my God, he's terrible.
30%. Dude's just out there running around getting cardio. Imani Bates. I understand that Isaiah Okoro is a defender, but no matter how good of a defender is, he's not better than a 6'9" defender. By looking at him, he could be a better defender. Yes, as of day one. I don't think he's going to be able to come in and start, but I think he's going to show that he brings a lot more to the team than the other 3 forwards on their team.
But really, I'm just glad. What does really come with defense anyway? But go ahead, Shaun.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm glad that I'm not crazy because I felt like I was on an island by myself. But, I mean, you just check out youtube.com and search stats over politics. Our guy, Wes, he was chipping in, and he said earlier, you aren't a Buckeye, Kev. Jet Howard is trash.
Bro,
well, Wes.
Jet Howard disrespect is crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not. I am an Ohio State fan. I'm a diehard for Ohio State for all sports. But Wes, something you should know about your boy Kevin, and he's not an Ohio State fan for all sports. Only football. And so, like, when it comes to basketball, throw all that out the window.
Out the window.
And so, and Wes
indoor.
Right. And Wes also said something else that is the reason why I didn't feel crazy is he just said, thank you, Shaun, with 3 exclamation points. He wanted to make sure everyone knew that
he was a Timberwolves fan.
He said role players that play their role, role player that plays his role. I mean, Wes gets it. Sometimes it's not all about dropping 20, 25 points.
It's giving
right
Tabo Cephalosha vibes.
Kevin.
Running around airbacks.
That's a big one.
Jaevon is obviously a Celtics fan. But Kevin, I'm disappointed in you as a Sacramento Kings fan because you should know by now that you can't win if you're giving up 140 points. That's why defense is played, and that's why Isaac Okoro should remain in the Cavs starting lineup.
Yeah, but like I told Gary, he has 2 7-footers just sitting 3 steps behind him.
Block party. They can play.
Hey, man. I gotta get a hand up and contest it.
In the rim.
Well, hey, if you get a versatile 3, well, I don't know. Well, anyways, I appreciate Wes for tapping in and for everyone who's contributing on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch. So we appreciate all of you. I just wanted to voice a couple of thoughts that I had about the draft overall. Number one, I thought that it was awesome to see the Thompson twins, Amen and Asar, go back-to-back 4 and 5. Yeah, because the second that Amen got picked at 4, which is kind of where he was projected, the thing that I thought instantly was, oh my gosh, I hope Asar doesn't have to wait very long. Because imagine how awkward that would have been. Like if he had to wait until at least like 10 or something like that, you're just waiting and waiting and your brother is getting to experience everything that you know you're going to experience, but you're just sitting there waiting and waiting. And luckily he didn't have to wait. Brandon Miller going to over Scoot Henderson, that like you would think that Michael Jordan in his last move with the Charlotte Hornets, maybe he just wanted to screw the Charlotte Hornets. Maybe that's what he wanted to do. But you would think that on his way out, he would try to bless his home state's team and he would draft a generational talent, not as great as Vic, but Scoot Henderson is going to be damn good. I think Scoot Henderson is going to be a multiple-time All-Star. And to pass on him for Brandon Miller, and I know that is it Jaevon and I that aren't high on Brandon Miller, and Kevin, you're the one who is just super high on Brandon
Wonder
Miller
is too.
Well, okay, but anyways, I don't think that Brandon Miller is going to turn out to be what everyone is projecting his ceiling to be, and I just thought that it was a idiotic decision for the Hornets to pass on Scoot, even if they have LaMelo, as one of our YouTube commenters said. Lonium Stonium says LaMelo. Well, I still think that they could have been great with Scoot and LaMelo. Now that leaves the Portland Trailblazers with a decision. It's going to be very interesting. And finally, I just wanted to mention Grady Dick, because he really put himself out there. Yeah, he put that shit on. And real quickly, do you guys think that he legitimately planned for the ruby red suit to say, oh, I'm not in Kansas anymore, like Ode to Wizard of Oz and Dorothy with the red slippers? Do you think that he actually thought of that, or he just wore a red sparkly suit and then someone said to me like, oh, are you trying to be like Dorothy? You're not in Kansas anymore? And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think? Kevin, do you think that he actually thought that out, or do you think he just ran with it when someone said that?
Probably just ended up running with it. Someone just put 2 and 2 together, and he probably just didn't even think about it. Went over his head, so it went with it. And I was talking to Toddy during the show, man. He put that shit on. That was probably the best outfit of the night.
Gary, I mean, he did end up wearing the color of his future team, which is the Toronto Raptors. He's going north. And so do you think that he actually planned all that out, or he just ran with it?
I'm going to trust the kid. He said he planned it, so we're going to let him say he planned it. It's all good. Whatever it is, he's a Toronto man now. We're going to see how he's playing up there soon.
Yeah, he going to be, I was going to say maple leaf, but I guess, yeah, the Canada flag is the maple leaf and it's red. Anyway, sorry, getting off on a random tangent. Jaevon, what do you think? Do you think that Grady Dick planned all that?
Probably not, but he said that he's going to try and get Drake to wear his jersey now, so we'll see. We'll see where that takes him.
Just like
Drake
that.
follows him on Instagram.
He just got put in the song.
Boom,
he's gonna give him a couple racks and be like, hey, bro, you're about to go viral.
Imagine like the different lines that could be created using Grady Dick's name. Like there could be some fun wordplay there that could like you know how like sometimes in verses how like people were telling a story and then they just like drop like a name or something like that. I feel like it could ultimately like just be like telling a story and then just be like Grady Dick and then just keep going or something like that. Anyways, I'm not the guy to talk about.
Might take that right there from you right there. Shaun the Ghostwriter.
Shaun the Ghostwriter.
I'm just gonna leave that there. So the Sacramento Kings, since we are a Sacramento-based podcast, let's talk about the Kings' moves in the second round, because they did end up trading out of the first round. We will get to that in just a moment next. But I wanted to talk about the picks that they actually did make. They went with Colby Jones and Jalen Slauson. Being honest, I didn't know about either of these guys before the draft. I'm still learning these guys. And so I would just be repeating what I've already heard or lying to try and act like I know who these guys are. Do any of you guys actually, have you done your research and you actually know about these guys? Because unfortunately I haven't, and I'm a casual. What about you, Jaevon?
So I gamble, as you guys know. So
yes,
I watched a lot of Xavier college basketball. I was in the trenches doing a lot of study. Early mornings, because they play at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I was watching a little bit of Xavier basketball. No, Colby Jones was definitely, I'd say, probably one of the better players on Xavier this past season. Xavier, they had a really good year up until Big East. I think they're Big East.
Big East.
Big East tournament where they got piped up by Marquette. Lost some money in that game, so not gonna go there. But Kobe Jones, I thought was very solid. I think he's what, Kev? 6'6". He's 6'6", so can be a wing. I think give you a spark off the bench, being able to score. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a lights out shooter, but he's a guy that can defend. He can score the basketball pretty well. I think he'll probably be, just a bench guy, be able to get some solid minutes for the Kings off the bench. Want to see what he looks like in Summer League coming up at the Summer Classic. Was that July 3rd? Get your tickets.
That's kind of right
around. Shaun out there.
No free advertisement. They're not paying us.
But
well, no, Kevin, he didn't even say the actual name of it, and I was going to correct him. But you're right. No, they can pay us.
Yeah. But I think I don't know too much about Jalen Slauson, to be honest. I think I saw some numbers that he was like the high, like he scored the most in the league, that whatever league that he was in. Don't know
the little league. Yeah.
Don't know too much about Jalen Slauson, but I thought Kobe Jones was definitely a solid pickup. We'll see more about Slauson for sure.
Yeah, Jalen Slauson, he comes out of Furman, so relatively small school.
I definitely saw them play a couple times.
I think didn't they play in Sac during the NCAA tournament?
They were in they for sure were in a tournament.
They were in the
so
tournament.
yeah, he was the guy in the Southern Conference. That's what it stands for. Is the Southern
MVP.
Conference. There you go. He was the MVP. And so, Kevin, do you have any thoughts on the Kings' two newest players?
Yeah, no. Kobe Jones was a lot of mock drafts going first round, so I kind of did my homework on him. Like Toddy mentioned, he's a kind of a do-it-all guard. And Toddy mentioned he didn't really shoot the lights out, but he shot 38% from three. In college, that's pretty much close to dimming the lights. He's a two-way guard, and he does it all. He's a rebounder, averaging 7 rebounds and 12 points. I think he's a do-it-all two-way guard for us. I don't really see him making an impact, but like Toddy mentioned, he could be a spark off the bench. He's a bigger guard. And he can bring that defense. A lot of our guards kind of don't bring it on the defensive end, so he can play it under Mike Brown. Can really get him to be an all bought in, and really be able to benefit in the programs later on.
All right, Gary, do you have any thoughts about our two newest players, or the Kings' two newest players?
Yeah,
I know. I really try to cut out that verbiage, but it's natural sometimes.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just piggyback on what you guys saying. Obviously, I didn't watch too much, as you guys already know. I mentioned it. I don't watch too much of college basketball, but at the end of the day, like I said last week before the draft happened, I'm going to trust our development staff. I'm trusting our scouting department. They haven't done us wrong, or I feel like made bad choices the last few years, especially under Monty McNair. They've been really nailing every pick, I feel like, and nailing some guys to really help us in the future. Just develop some guys who could, end up helping us in the future. So I feel like this is some good guys. They got some length on them. And, yeah, I feel like we needed some length, and there are some guys who can bring some length, and there's some young guys who already got some guys. And if you really look at them, they got some obviously good NBA bodies already. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't need to be too much maturity at that level. So them just maybe learning the game and really hopefully could just step in and help us in some capacity would be really cool for us as Kings fans to see. So shout out to these guys, make it to the Kings, and let's get it going.
Like the beam.
Straight up.
So some sad news, but ultimately what needed to be done was that the Sacramento Kings on draft night did trade Richaun Holmes to Dallas with the number 24 overall pick. For those of you who are new to sports, you may be thinking to yourself, why would the Kings do that? They traded Richaun Holmes and a first-round pick and got like nothing in return. Why would they do that?
Why would they?
Well, they would do that to clear cap space, as Gary's indicating with his fingers, to clear money. And now, and I want to just read this tweet from James Ham, who is a Big J journalist, one of the top guys that you could read from about the Sacramento Kings. He said this: trading Richaun Holmes to the Dallas Mavericks clears up a tremendous amount of cap space for the Sacramento Kings. Holmes' $12 million plus the $2.7 million hold for the number 24 overall pick is worth almost $15 million in space and puts the Kings well over $30 million under the cap. Now from Keith Smith, who is an NBA reporter, he said today, updated 2023 cap space projections after the John Collins trade to Utah. Number 1 is the Houston Rockets with almost $61 million in cap space. San Antonio Spurs, $38.6 million. Sacramento Kings, $35.6 million, meaning the Kings have $35.6 million to spend in free agency on future contracts. And as we know, that all works with the annual value of the contract. So let's throw it to the non-Sacramento Kings first, Kings fan first. Jaevon, what do you think about Richaun Holmes being traded to Dallas?
Draymond Green, baby, he's coming. Get your popcorn ready. No, I'm just playing. Draymond, he's not leaving Golden State. I think this could go a couple of ways. Obviously, Richaun Holmes, loved him to death. I thought, it kind of just didn't really work out. The fit when Sabonis ended up getting traded there, he kind of just got pushed to the side a little bit. I thought he could have ended up getting a little bit more minutes, but I think his lack of shooting ability kind of pushed him out a little bit. Ultimately, I think in Dallas, he'll get a lot more run and kind of be able to showcase his talents a little bit more, kind of like when he was, I'd say, the season before Sabonis ended up getting traded to the Sacramento Kings. So I think we'll see a lot of him there. But as far as, the Kings kind of, they're in the weeds a little bit. They've been fairly quiet, haven't really made too much splash plays. A lot of people, Kevin, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Jaylen Brown, like these are all
sitting in the cuts
that I see in the group chat on a daily basis. But I think it might be Chris Middleton. Now, he did opt out of a $40 million of his the last year of his contract. He opted out of that. So I don't know if the Kings, if he might be able to, take a pay cut coming to Sac, but he did opt out of $40 million, which is pretty insane to me. So I'm not going to know what his number will look like. But in all realistic things, I think it's probably going to be for Kyle Kuzma. I've said this since the Kevin shakes his head at that. I've said this since
trade deadline
of last year. Well, last trade deadline. So this year in February, I've kind of been saying Kyle Kuzma to the Kings, like, hey, let's not hate on this a little bit.
It almost happened before.
Kev is for sure a non-believer.
30 mil.
I mean, he's a guy that averaged, I think, 22 points per game last year. I was screaming for him to be a freaking all-star last year. So if you can get that off of the bench from Kyle Kuzma, he can add a little bit of defense. I think he's 6'9", so he's a guy that can kind of come in, not really screw anything up that you guys have going on, and kind of just add to pretty much everything that you guys got going on. I think it would be a good fit for you guys for sure. So that's
Kevin.
what I think. The Richaun Holmes trade to Dallas.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And so, Kevin, obviously being Kings fans, we have our perspective on it, clearing the money and the fact that Richaun, since Domantas Sabonis came to town, Richaun in his role was extremely minimized and he had plenty of DNP. So it's nice to get that $12 million off the end of the bench that was essentially not contributing much. And so we know the perspective from the Kings, but also, what do you think about things from the Dallas perspective? Because not only did they get a first-round pick to take on the cap room, but they also got a guy in Richaun Holmes who could contribute day one.
Yeah, they talked about contributing from day one. They also took the 10th pick, Derek Lively, a 7'2" guard or a 7'2" center out of Duke. So they really went in for the depth at the guard, the wing, the center position. Richaun Holmes can do a lot. We saw him. He made it with the infamous push shot. It really had a lot of people in Sacramento all loved for him. I'm not sure about this, but he played all his season with Sac, yeah?
Pretty much.
I think so.
Yeah, so for him to come in and so for his career averaging 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 block in 192 games in 4 seasons. So, Alex Lynn really had a rebirth at the end of the season, and that's when we all thought Richaun Holmes would kind of get those minutes. And his lack of defense, and him being a 6'6" big man in the modern defense or the modern era really hurt him. So I think Dallas Mavericks are getting a lot. Luka likes to do those pocket passes like we saw Fox do. So Fox and Holmes really did well together. So I'm expecting Luka and Holmes to really do well together. And so I'm hoping none but the best for them.
Yeah, I am too, because when we look back at the Vlade Divac era, I feel like Rashawn Holmes was like the last standing piece, other than obviously you got De'Aaron Fox and a couple other picks. 2019, no, he was gone. Yeah, Barnes was Barnes a Vlade move? I guess it was. Yeah, he's been here for a while.
He's been for a minute.
Yeah, and so Rashawn though was the Vlade move to me because I feel like that was like, other than drafting De'Aaron Fox, it was probably his best move that he made, considering what the Kings signed Rashawn Holmes to when they signed him to that original 2-year contract before he re-upped and got that 3-year, $50-something million deal. And I just thought that was just an amazing deal because, as Kevin was kind of saying earlier, Rashawn didn't really break out in his career until he came to Sacramento, and then he became a starter as the center, and he really broke out, and it seemed like a steal. Now I think that could honestly be the case for Dallas, and it could be exactly what Rashawn needed. And real quickly, before I toss this off to Gary to get his final thoughts on this, I just want to say shout out to the Holmes family because they were absolutely, and they still are, but no longer in Sacramento. They are amazing people, an amazing family, always showed love to the Kings fans and always just had a great spirit about it. And they really embraced Sacramento from the start. And so we really appreciate them and their time that they spent in Sacramento. And so, Gary, you obviously have watched a lot of Sacramento Kings basketball. And so what's your take on Rashawn Holmes being traded to Dallas?
You took the words out of my mouth, Shaun. I was first going to say, great guy, great family. Always, anytime you hear him talk about Sacramento, he always been showing love to Sacramento, like eateries and things of that nature and all that types of things. So he always showing Sacramento love. So that's really cool. That speaks on him as a person, how he was raised. So that's the first thing right there for him. Second thing on the business side of things, I feel like obviously like what Vaughn talked about is obviously a good thing for Sacramento Kings. We got some money dumpage, and then we got a chance now to go pick some guys, pick of the litter right now in a sense. And hopefully, like, I would just hit me right now. I was like, man, this right here, obviously every move is a big move, but this right here, next move from Monte McNair might be the biggest one of them yet, because this is going to set us up for either where we can Vaughn, if we can be able to take that next step or become one of those teams like we've seen before, Trailblazers when they had Dame and CJ, the Clippers when they had all the like CP3 and all them, when we're knocking on the door and just can't get over the hump, just like we're seeing from the Siege right now, Vaughn Siege, like, when you're knocking on the door so many times, things got to shake up. So this is the move. Yeah, exactly. So this is right here, move right here that I think is going to be a big move for Sacramento Kings. So Shaun and Kev, we should be a little nervous just to see what's around the pipe. But trusting our guy Monte McNair that he's going to make the best move for us, because I feel like so far you can't lose trust. You can't lose trust. You know what I'm saying? You only lose it when you break it. So he hasn't broke our trust yet. So there's no point of him losing any trust. So again, I think it's also flip to the other side of the coin here for Dallas. I feel like it's great. Like Shaun mentioned, this was a spark plug for us in some bad days we had. You know what I'm saying? A spark plug off the bench. He really brought some energy to the building, the go to one center when he would throw it down, or like Kev said, get that push shot. I just feel like, with our team and us getting some bonus and things of that nature, he just couldn't find his role with us, and also had some little bit of nagging injuries last year. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if he get back on track in terms of just getting fully healthy and get ready to go, find a role on this Dallas Mavericks team if they were going to keep him, I think it's really good for them. Him playing with Luka, and just, it's crazy. I think one of you guys said, I forgot who said it, but basically like the small ball lineup messes him up now because he's 6'6". But it's crazy how just like not that long ago, that was like that type of person was everyone needed a guy who can, who can really help them kind of spread out and things of that nature. But now we're kind of back with Jokic and all these big guys come back in the league. They're leaning more towards height again. So I feel like Rashawn's if he can find a great role for his team, a great role with the team, I feel like he can be a great asset to a team and help winning. So I feel like he's a great guy, and I feel like he could really help a team. Just couldn't help us at the moment because of our situation, our dynamic of our team.
Best of luck to Rashawn in Dallas and the Holmes family. We want Rashawn to thrive in Dallas as an individual player, but we do not want the Mavericks to win. So I hope he puts up big numbers, but I don't want the Mavericks ahead of the Sacramento Kings in the standings. And also just the last thing I'll say about this is in regard to Monte McNair and the trust factor that everyone has spoken about. He's had my trust since he picked Tyrese Halliburton. Point blank period. And as Gary said, he has not lost it. And let's not forget that he's the reigning and defending NBA Executive of the Year that he just won like 2 months ago, which says he is the best in the league, at least as far as what he did in the previous year. And so let's have some faith, let's have some patience, and we'll wait and see. And you know that we're going to talk about it here on Stats Over Politics when it does end up happening. Just want to talk about this real quickly before we move on from the Sacramento Kings completely. Gary, it looked like you wanted to say something there, or were you just taking a huge breath?
I know, just my bad. Deep breath
Okay.
moment, my bad. I was, I thought you were about to say the Boston thing. That's why I was like, oh, I'm ready for talk to Vaughn about this. But it's all good. Hold on.
No, we will get to those 2 huge trades, which are included in our show's title in just a moment. But I wanted to just briefly touch on this about the Kings promoting Lindsey Harding, who was an assistant coach on Mike Brown's staff with the Sacramento Kings. Since Bobby Jackson departed to Philadelphia to become an assistant coach on Nick Nurse's staff, they needed a new head coach for the Stockton Kings, the Kings G League affiliate. And now Lindsey Harding has been promoted to the Stockton head coach. And a corresponding move is Paul Johnson will no longer be the general manager of the Stockton Kings, and Vivek's daughter, Anjali Ranadive, has been promoted to the general manager of the Stockton Kings. This is now the first time that I think, at least in the G League, and also for the NBA, because we haven't seen this in the NBA, where you have a head coach and a executive who are both female on the G League level. So as Gary started, let's just get a round of applause for the Sacramento Kings thinking forward. You can think whatever you want about Anjali Ranadive being named the GM, how there might be nepotism. I'll just throw that word out there, and that's the last thing that I'll say. But I'm very happy for Lindsey Harding, because not only was she a great college player, a great WNBA player, but now she's been a great assistant in the NBA, and it's just nice to see her continue to move up. And this will give her that head coaching experience on the NBA level. And so, Gary, you and I, we went to a Stockton Kings game last season. And so what do you think about this move?
I think it's a great move. Obviously, Lindsey's been with the team for quite a while with Sacramento Kings. She's a great coach. She's great with the players. You can see her interact with all the players and the coaches. She's great on the floor with X's and O's. I feel like just a great overall move, just hiring someone in-house. And, she gets a respect from the players, and that's the main thing that a coach, I feel like, needs. First. And the second thing is that she helps them get better and really wants them to get better. So I feel that's a great move for her and a great opportunity for Lindsey. So that's congratulations to her and her new opportunity, as well as Vivek Ranadive's daughter, Anjali. Congratulations to her, too. Like you mentioned, just 2 women in power, which is really cool to see that in women empowerment go ahead in the NBA. And it's a first ball of many to keep rolling down for the NBA, or however you want to say that. I might have said that wrong, but you know what I mean. It's a key momentum that's going to keep going up, which is great for the league to get more diversity and giving more people chances. And I know Shaun mentioned nepotism, whatever. I have no clue all that. I just feel like she's there every day. She's putting in the work, I'm assuming, and she, I don't feel like in this league they really too many handouts probably. So I feel like she's probably putting the work in, and she did her due diligence to earn this position. Might be a little bit, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, that's how life works, Shaun. That's how the connections is what makes you in life. So she got the connection, whatever it is. I just hope she just does great for the team and helps them keep getting better, because we got a great G League team, I feel like, who makes noise and brings a lot of good guys through our team and gives us as the Kings opportunity to see guys. So I feel like as long as that ball keeps rolling, I feel like she'll do a great job in her position.
And Kevin or Jaevon, do either of you have thoughts about this move with the Kings G League squad? Jaevon?
Casual.
It's not about what you know, Gary. It's about who you know.
Simple as that.
Definitely.
All right. Well, there you go. It's all good. And Kevin, you're up in Portland, so we'll have to wait for you to come home back to the 916. But Jaevon, Gary, and I, we're going to drag you to a Stockton Kings game next season. We got to make it happen. So, I mean, Jaevon, you know,
I'm not too happy about that.
I mean, Jaevon knows that I gotta connect with the Stockton Kings.
Stockton Kings team, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll see Colby Jones there. Most likely we'll see Jalen Slauson there. So
California Classic.
Hey, they didn't pay us nothing. I'm not going to repeat it or promote it. So now moving on to 3 big trades in the NBA. Let's start off with Chris Paul traded to the Golden State Warriors and Jordan Poole traded to Washington. There were some other pieces in that it was a 3-team deal, right? Or was that a 2? Okay, so it was a three-teamer steamer. And these are Jaevon knows that one from parlays. But anyways, Chris Paul got traded to Golden State. Jordan Poole to Washington. A lot of people's instant reaction was, okay, Golden State's going to release Chris Paul. But then immediately reports came out from all of the big J journalists in the Bay, including Marcus Thompson, who is very tapped in on the Golden State Warriors. And all the reports said that the Warriors plan on keeping Chris Paul and that they want to make it work. I don't know how they're going to make it work, but they say they want to keep him and make it work with his 37, 40 million, whatever it is. It's a lot of money that a 38-year-old Chris Paul is making. And so, Jaevon, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one first. What do you think about CP3 joining the Warriors and Jordan Poole joining the Wizards? Because you and we had a lot of discourse about that in this past week.
I thought it was a shocking trade. Just that they ended up getting Chris Paul in the deal. Obviously, Washington, when they received Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns in that Bradley Beal deal, we kind of were thinking that Chris Paul was going to end up getting flipped somewhere or getting bought out. I was kind of assuming that he was going to end up going to the Clippers, reuniting there. But ultimately, he ended up going to the Golden State Warriors. And I was like, wow, okay. So all those years when Steph and Chris Paul kind of went at it in the playoffs, regular season, now they're teammates. And there are even some old videos coming out, I think, of Draymond Green saying he's like, I don't like Chris Paul, but I respect his basketball IQ and all this other stuff. So I think it was kind of a Draymond or Jordan Poole type deal. I think it was bigger than that. Like, all right, Poole's got to get the hell up out of here. And, we saw Mike Dunleavy say, good, Jordan Poole's going to be here for the next 4 years. He's going to play his contract out and this, that, and the third. But all that was
actually there for like another 4 days.
Yeah, all that kind of went out the window. When new regime kind of hits, I wouldn't say new regime, but, new general manager in town, he's going to try and, make his mark a little bit. So this
first time GM.
Yeah, so this could be either really good or really bad. But the Warriors are known for zagging when everyone's zigging. The whole Kevin Durant deal, when that went down in 2016, the Hampton 5, and they ended up winning 2 championships. So Chris Paul, is he ring chasing here? I'm not sure I'd go that far. The way that he plays, his style of play is like he's more of I'm going to slow the ball down, run the offense. The Warriors are a little bit more up-tempo, and Steve Kerr style is a little bit more early offense type, getting Steph involved, and get him cooking a little bit. So I don't know. Will we ever see a lineup where it's Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson all on the floor at the same time? That could be a possibility, but
depending on the matchup,
it'd be dog food, barbecue chicken on the other end of the floor.
Oh yeah,
for sure. As far as the Washington Wizards side, this is what Shaun was kind of talking about. I think Jordan Poole is kind of the guy now, other than Blau, the pick that they just picked in the top 5 or top 6, I'd say. But Jordan Poole definitely has the mega green light to shoot anything and do pretty much whatever he wants. He's going to get all the shots that he wants. I guess Kevin and Shaun believe that he's going to average 25 points a game, which kind of screams all-star to me. I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I think he's probably going to average about 20. I said on the live show, I said about 21, 22 points. So not too far.
So you won't make 2 more layups?
Hey, that's not. He's getting the green light
on the Wizards.
Yeah, it's
a 25-win team.
Yeah,
maybe less.
They might win less games than that, but I don't think he's going to average 25 next year. But I think this is good for him. He's going to be a guy that's going to be the main option. It's like, all right, who else is going to? Tyus Jones is going to be getting all these shots. Probably not. But I think that this is a change of scenery. Jordan Poole kind of coming off of the whole finals run. We were comparing him and contrast. This could be one of the greatest final runs ever for a guy. Just all that stuff went off of that whole Warrior run, and him getting punched in the offseason didn't really help out for him. And just he's getting a change of scenery. Just imagine having to go to work with a guy that punched you in the face every day and having to play for him. It's a little weird. So kind of him just fresh start for him. He's still a very young player. He's going to be entering his new contract think it's $150 million for over 4 years, or close to $150 million, 140 something. So I think Jordan Poole is going to kind of be the guy that they draw up all the plays for, and he's going to pretty much shoot anything that he gets his hands on. So, and not get criticized for it, because they are going to be a sub 25 win team.
Yeah, let's not forget that Kyle Kuzma went from being a role player on the Lakers to averaging over 20 points on the Wizards. And that was a team with Bradley Beal. That was a team with Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis. My point that I was making, and I'll just be quick with this that I alluded to earlier with Jaevon, is that Jaevon and I were kind of, well, no, he ignored me on Twitter, so we weren't bickering back and forth. But Jaevon put out a tweet where someone said, yeah, Jordan Poole, he's going to probably average over 25. And Jaevon's response was, I don't think he will average over 25, but if he does, he's going to be an all-star. It does not matter to me if he averages 26, 27, 28, 29. Maybe he can average 30, and then he'll make the all-star team. But if he is averaging 25 through 29 or anything less than 29, and he's on a sub-30 win team that's not even in the play-in discussion, then it does not matter. It's empty stats. That's what everyone kept saying about DeMarcus Cousins for years and years and years. And that's why he didn't make the all-star team as many times as he should have in Sacramento. He was a 3-time all-star, probably could have been a 5-time all-star in Sacramento. So that's my whole point that I wanted to make about that. Kevin, tossing it to you next. What do you think about this CP3 trade to Golden State, Jordan Poole to Washington, and everything else in between?
So to dive into this Washington Wizards trade, as soon as it happened, I'm going through Twitter and I'm scrolling, and I saw 4 pictures. And I said, oh, this is hella interesting. Let me send it to the group chat. God. So let me enlighten you guys. They were saying, can Jordan Poole be what James Harden was in Houston? And honestly, at first I said no. But thinking about it, why not? They both played the same role in there. So for James Harden at OKC and for Jordan Poole, they're both essentially 6 men. They play in the lineup sometimes. Jordan Poole averaged 27 points without Steph in the lineup. 27 points. So that's with Clay, Wiggins, Draymond. So you're like Shaun mentioned, we're going to put him on the Washington Wizards. As with Steph in the lineup, he averaged 20 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. Jordan Poole, like Toddy mentioned, we were talking about him last year, talking about this is a great run. And my man had 3 weeks of bad basketball. And now he's on the first ship out to Washington.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be great for his career. He's going to really be able to blossom in that first person role and playing along not even arguably the best backup point guard in the league in Tyus Jones. I think the Wizards came up, and I think that Jordan Poole is going to take a huge jump. I definitely see him averaging 25 plus. Like Shaun mentioned, though, if they're not going to be winning games, I don't see him making an all-star game. But if he can get them into the play-in and he's averaging the points that he is, I can definitely see him making an all-star game.
Garry?
So for the CP3 side of things, I guess the Wizards was good. They flipped that into something, so that's good for them. Because I remember we're looking at last week that Beal trade, like, what did you guys get? So I guess they ended up flipping, so it's looking a little bit better for them. But when I first seen the CP3 trade to the Warriors, I was like, what? Why would they do this? It doesn't really make no sense. When I first thought about it, because I was like, you guys got beat by probably what is going to be Jokic and LeBron and AD with all height. If you want to win to the finals, Giannis, all these big guys you're going to go through. That's been kind of your Achilles heel, and you are going shorter and older when you were actually doing pretty good young. So it just didn't make no sense at first. But I always started thinking like, all right, if Chris Paul can obviously buy into whatever role they need him to play. And what I heard Steve Kerr say today too, they just need a little shake up, a little tweakages here and there. I feel like this ain't the number one thing this team needed. Obviously, I still think they need height and they still need more athleticism on this team. Just maybe another scorer to help out Curry, to be honest. But for basically, like Draymond Green said about him already, for basketball IQ purposes, I think, guys, this is going to work out. And however way you slice it, but Chris Paul is just way too smart. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Stephen Curry are way too smart not to just make it work out somehow. Basically, they got a guy. If you just want to think about it, not what they needed, but what they kind of shipped out in terms of Poole, even though Poole, like Kevin said, I have I think, like I'm going to talk about in a second, but I think he's going to be doing great in Washington. So basically switching that kind of guy, which really can be, let's be honest, a little high turnover just because he just has the ball a lot and trying to be a Steph Curry. You're not trying to be, but he really just got the green light already to be Steph Curry at moments. So then when he's on the floor, they needed him to tailor it back, I'm assuming, and he just wasn't able to do that in the role he needed to play for this team to win. So I feel like then basically saying, Curry, you can have some moments in the game where you can actually rest a little bit in terms of and let Chris Paul run the show, which obviously Steph Curry is a great he's one of the greatest shooters ever. He can shoot all on the ball, off the ball, anything you need him shooting wise, he got you. So I just feel like maybe that's taking the ball also out of Draymond Green. But then again, I'm going back to that. I feel like it's going to work out because this team is just too smart. And I don't know if those three players, like you mentioned, Clay, Curry, and Chris Paul, are going to play together because obviously we mentioned defense is going to be tough for that matchup, but depending on who they play. But I feel like for this Warriors team, it's a good way heading in the right direction because I think you guys all seen the stats that this team, obviously, they're known they're like a ball movement type offense with a lot of curling and switching and getting through cuts. They're not really running the regular pick and roll high tempo unless they really try to do that in the playoffs, which they weren't really good at. So I feel like Chris Paul is obviously one of the highest usage players in pick and roll situations. He's been killing that since day one he's been in the league. And so he's obviously going to feel like help Kuminga become a factor more, maybe help Loon become a little bit more of a factor on offense. So I feel like he's just going to help guys get better. So I just feel like same thing, even though I want him to go to LA and feel that I feel like that would have been better for him. I feel like any team that Chris Paul would have went to, I feel like he's a value player still to this day. He can still pass the rock. He might not be able to score as much as he can before, but in terms of this team, obviously I feel like we're talking about pace. They need to slow down anyway, so I feel like he's going to help out. Real quick, I was just talking about the Washington. Again, like I mentioned right before I started talking, that they flipped it for Poole. They also, I think, obviously they got the Memphis Grizzlies backup guard Tyus Jones as well. Still, I'm assuming. So that's a good match because he's one of those good young players who is really a good, great backup guard. He helped out when Ja was missing a lot of games. He was really there being that guy to help out. So him being now over there, teamed up with Poole, maybe he can also help on defense. We're just gonna see how the dynamic goes. But I feel like Kev, man. I think you're hitting on the money. I feel like Jordan Poole. I don't know about the James Harden reference. That was a good one to pull out. That's just, I don't know how it's gonna be exactly that, but hey, I feel like he got a chance because he learned a lot with the Warriors. I mean, he didn't really need to win, quote unquote, but he got the championship experience. He knows how to win. Obviously, being with his team. Maybe him just having so much confidence in himself got him punched. Who knows? I have no clue. But realistically, he has all the confidence in the world in himself as he should because he's been coming from the bottom all the way up to make it to the level he is for where he got that big bag last year with Wiggs. So I feel like he's going to do wonders in Washington. Again, Shaun could be right. He could be bad, good, great stat guy, bad team type of player, whatever you want to say that, puts a lot of stats on a bad team. But I feel like him as a player, I feel like he still wants to win. He's just been in a winning situation, so I don't think that's really going to deter him. So I feel like he's going to try to help Washington become a better team while getting his numbers. So I feel like it's really good for all parties, even though I feel like the Warriors still need a little more. But, hey, I think they still have a little more moves to go. So we'll see how free agency turns out for them.
Chris Paul is a really expensive backup point guard. He's a really expensive mentor on the contract that he's on.
$40 million.
But as was mentioned earlier, Chris Paul is very, very smart. I mean, he's the guy who's snitching on guys who don't have their jerseys tucked in. So then it's a technical free throw. He knows every rule in the NBA rule book. And then also you look at that second unit that he's likely going to be playing with. He seems like he could end up elevating a Jonathan Kuminga, a Moses Moody, who haven't taken that necessary. Yeah, I know what you were about to do. Who they haven't taken that leap yet that the Warriors kind of wanted when they wanted to do both with the vets, but also the young guys. And now these are the two young guys left standing because you look at the Warriors picks since like 2017. And Kuminga and Moody are the only ones that they still have now that Jordan Poole has been traded. And so go ahead, Gary.
Shout out Trevor's behind you, Shaun. But I just wanted to say real quick that that's one thing I'm a little bit iffy about, guys. I'm like, do we really want him coming off the bench? I know he has to come off the bench basically because obviously Curry's not coming off the bench, obviously, duh. So it's not even a question. So it's like, but can you start them? It's pretty tough. It's like Chris Paul, I think I seen the stat, never ever came off the bench his career, ever. ever in the whole league in the NBA. So, I mean, that's going to be a big move.
$40 billion.
Exactly. And it's not like when we kind of felt like Melo, he just needed just to show that he had that transition in him. Maybe he didn't deserve it, but just show his transition. I feel like they're doing that with Chris Paul. Like, can you do it? But then again, if you look in the league, I think Chris Paul, if you look around, is still a starter in this league. So that's why it's a little bit of a tug and pull. And again, back to also the heartstrings of what Vaughn said, this team has really knocked him out his championship window time and time again. So it's just a kind of like, I think Chris Paul mentioned it because, he's on a tour right now for his book. That it was basically like a whole circle that coming back to this team. Not coming back, but, facing it, ended up being all this team that really stopped him in all his runs. So it's a little bit awkward, to be honest, kind of weird. Like, still scratching my head at the move. But then again, like I just go back to the final thought is too many too high-level basketball IQ people. Oh my God, too many high-level basketball IQ people in the building not to make it work. So I feel like just for that whole situation, it's gonna work out.
And Gary, just to address who walked behind me, that was my mom who made a cameo walking behind me. So thanks for shouting her out. She listens to the podcast on Spotify, and so she'll be listening to this podcast. I mean, she's been sitting here at times, and so she's gotten a little bit of a live show, but she'll also be listening to this in a couple of days on Spotify probably. So shout out to my mom. Hello, you walk behind me, and that's things that you can only see on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So let's just get to a couple of comments from YouTube real quickly. As Uncle Manny earlier, when we were talking about the Kings trading Rashawn Holmes, Uncle Manny said, Kings time to go shopping. And apparently on that wish list, Uncle Manny wants Brooke Lopez, someone named Sophia Rodriguez tuning in and sending a heart. We appreciate you, Sophia. Right. Oh, and our guy James said, yo, just got done with Monday Night Raw. What's up with the fellas? We appreciate you locking in with us right when Raw ends. And then also shout out to Julian, our guy Julian, who also ended up commenting right around 8 o'clock. So Julian was probably also watching Monday Night Raw, and he says, been a minute, had to tune in. What's up? We appreciate you for tuning in, Julian. So guys, let's get to one of the other huge moves that happened in the NBA this week. And this one might have broken a heart or two, probably just one though, on this very panel. This trade was Kristaps Porzingis being traded to Boston with 2 first-round picks, and Marcus Smart being traded to Memphis. And this was another 3-team trade, right? Or was this a 2-teamer? This was a 3-team, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so another 3-team trade, but just getting to the headline names here. Kristaps Porzingis is now a Celtic, and Marcus Smart, who was supposed to be forever a Celtic, apparently, he has been traded to Memphis. And now, as I put in today's title, Memphis has gotten Smart. Haha, I'm so funny. Jaevon, what do you think about your boy, Marcus Smart, being traded to Memphis?
Well, it was heartbreaking. Not gonna lie. So many memories. I remember when Marcus Smart got drafted to the Celtics. We were trash. It was a little bit after the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett era. So we were still kind of pushing. I remember he was a very athletic guard coming out of Oklahoma State. I used to watch Marcus Smart play in high school too, so I was kind of following him a little bit. And then I was like, damn, we just drafted Marcus Smart. It's crazy. And then, just all over the years, the mid-air, the fish flop, as a lot of people like to call. I don't know if you guys noticed. Just go back and look at Marcus Smart flopping in mid-air. He's got a bunch of those.
I remember that. I think they found him on team.
Him winning 6th Man of the Year was incredible. Having a big deal for a bunch of our playoff success, and a lot of people tend to his stuff off of the court. He was one of the guys that go to like a lot of the children's hospitals in Boston, so he was very beloved by a bunch of fans and people in the city of Boston. So I was kind of mad just because the first trade didn't go through, the Malcolm Brogdon deal, who just won 6th Man of the Year, by the way. Was denied because injury concern. We don't know. Kawhi Leonard and freaking Paul George are always hurt, and now they're worried about injuries. We got to make sure the physical, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit. So I was like, okay, Malcolm Brogdon's going. And then when I saw the new news, shout out to Travis Kelce, their podcast.
They're not paying us either.
They're not paying us. Blah, blah, blah. But when I saw the new trade kind of come through, because it was like, all right, the trade has to go through by midnight or there's not going to be a trade happening. And then I saw the news that, okay, so I was like, it involves Memphis. I was like, all right. So Memphis, I was like, Brogdon's probably going to go to Memphis. He's going to pass physical, blah, blah, blah. Then kind of need the point guard. Ja's gone. And then I saw that it was Marcus Smart, and I was like, what?
You were
Like,
shit shocked.
I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was like, nah, it's got to be a typo. Like, we was just trying to trade Malcolm Brogdon a couple hours ago, and now all of a sudden it's Marcus Smart. So, yeah, I was a little bit heartbroken. Definitely was it was a gut punch. It was a gut punch for sure. And I was like, damn, bro, like he was a guy I thought was for sure going to retire a Celtic. Just everything that he's been through. Voice of the team, voice of the locker room. So I never in a million years thought that, Brad Stevens was going to trade a guy that he, initially started coaching. He was one of the first draft picks in that Brad Stevens era. So I thought he was going to be for lifer for sure. The flip side of things, kind of let the trade settle in a couple of days now. We got Porzingis, the unicorn. He's on his way to Boston. He's probably already in Boston right now. Guy averaged 23 and 8 last year. Pure bucket getter. Shot 38% from 3 last year. So, that might help us out.
And it was on the Wizards.
A lot of people.
A lot of Wizard slander.
Oh my God, he's the Wizards and Jordan Poole on the Wizards. I think Porzingis can help. It's a different look for us because we've never really had it. It's been more guard wing oriented for us for the past few years. Having the Kyrie, having Isaiah Thomas, who was in MVP discussions at one point in time. So we've never really seen the dynamic of, JB and Jason Tatum having a big. So we'll kind of see where that will take us to. But I love the dynamic. I don't know if Porzingis is going to give us 23 a game. That'd be lovely. I'd love that. But I think realistically, he's probably going to be a 17, 18 per game scorer. I think he's going to average a lot more rebounds, though. Probably around 10 rebounds. He might be an 18 and 10 guy for us. And it's going to be a great dynamic. He's going to be able to stretch the floor. Kev said, hey, tune in this week to hear us. Toddy said we're good in these. We're for sure good in these, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say that. We just went to the conference finals last year. I don't see why not we can't make another run. Those conference finals last year, why can't we go back?
Because they might go to the Heat.
I love this. I definitely love this pickup for us. It's a gift. You love it and you hate it because Marcus Smart had to go, but we had the same exact trade for Brogdon to go, and then it didn't fall through for us. So it could have been the perfect trade for us if we would have been able to keep Marcus Smart, but he ended up ultimately having to go. So is this a one-year rental for Porzingis because he opted into his last year of his contract, which around $36 million a year. So we'll see where this takes us. And a lot of people are saying that he's a guy that battles injuries. He does. So I think it'll be a challenge for him to kind of stay on the court. But if he's able to play 60 games this year, I think it'll be good for us.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I was hearing Jaevon say that the Celtics will be good in the East, I got flashbacks to when Jaevon was saying, shit, we might even sweep them, talking about the Miami Heat. Like, absolutely deja vu. And maybe I'll hop on Canva after this and then just Photoshop Jaevon's face onto Ja, and then I'll just change it to say East, because apparently the Celtics, they're fine in the East. So, Kevin, I just want to toss it to you next. I mean, you can pick up where you want from there.
Yeah, no, Porzingis is a huge move for the Celtics. One thing that Ty didn't mention is this was his third highest amount of games played in his career. Followed by he had 65 games this season, followed behind 66 in his second season and 72 as a rookie. So to see him really come out and play a lot of games, and like Toddy mentioned, like for the excuse of Bradley Beal, they're not playing for nothing. So they're shutting down seasons a lot earlier. So he could have played, possibly 70 games this season. So him being healthy, bringing a lot of things that the Celtics were missing was a defensive big man. Robert Williams has been in and out with injury, and then we don't have to mention the older statesman and Al Horford.
Don't.
I don't know how it's going to work with all three of them clogging up the paint. We saw that the Celtics were at their best when they had a two-man lineup, a two-big lineup. So this really gets to put Jason Tatum back at the true three, and Jaylen Brown can play the two. So I like to see it from that aspect, but I'm definitely interested to see how it plays out. And I don't know if you're good in the East, but I'll leave that for the next guy.
Gary?
First, for the Boston aspect of things, again, like Vaughn said, he's a Celtics fan, so I only got to go over the game. But hey, it's a really tough, I think, for the Celtics, a guy who dyes his hair green for you and things of that nature. He gets traded. But hey, he pours whole heart and soul into that team, so shout out to Marcus Smart for being a guy. Kind of resembles, I don't know if Vaughn probably seen the resemblance probably a few times, read all the memes and pictures going around with him and Tony Allen when he got traded to Memphis and defensive player. Same age and whole thing. And it ended up being a Memphis Grizzlies great. So I'm about to talk about that side in a second. But just real quick for the Boston side, I feel like, hey, like I said earlier, when it's time to shake things up. Okay, I'm sorry, Shaun. When it's time to shake things up, it's time to shake things up. And I feel like that's what they had to do, Vaughn. They just wanted to shake a couple, tweak little things. And again, it probably would have been good. Maybe if they would have got Brogdon, they would have kept Marcus Smart. But hey, when you got to make big moves, you got to make tough decisions, however connections are being made. So I feel like this is a good move for Boston. It's going to help them in some type of way, especially with the shooting aspect, and maybe also playing some pick and roll with Porzingis right there. But I think the main thing they're missing out right now is I feel like, again, the table setter. I know they have a lot of guards, and that's why they did this whole transaction to, make that guard area more defined. But I feel like they still don't have enough table setters on this team, so I don't know where that's going to come from unless we see emergence of Derek White continue, or also, like you see, Brogdon still on the team.
Defense.
Exactly. Brogdon's still on the team. So if someone gets table set for this team, because as Vaughn knows, that's the miss towards the end of the playoffs. That's been their thing that's really been killing it. Like not having enough ball handlers on the floor, or not getting in the right positions. That's why I've been saying CP3, things of that nature. So maybe even I was thinking if somehow they can get Mike Conley there somehow, some way, that'd be a good way. I don't know if the money or anything would work out, but I know it's, again, stacking more guards on the team, but someone's have to take that responsibility. But overall, I feel like it's great for Boston adding Porzingis. I feel like you guys mentioned the numbers. He's been on the up and up, and Kev mentioned he's been healthy his last year or two. So I feel like even though it's, again, on Shaun, it's on the Wizards, but, hey, he still put some numbers up. I feel like he's still a high-caliber guard, a high-caliber center that can help this Celtics team. Now, going real quick to the Marcus Smart piece of it, hey, they got a great guy. I thought exactly what the doctor ordered. They needed a vet who's going to be, preach winning, which he already knows how to win, preach leadership on and off the court. Again, keep that defensive identity, obviously, after they lose in the loudmouth guy, Dylan Brooks, after he got himself twisted in some words. So they keep that aspect. The guy also add a guy who can shoot threes. So I feel like they really made a great move. And for the Memphis Grizzlies, that's going to really help them keep their up and up. I feel like maybe they thought Marcus Smart maybe had a little bit of a down year, I guess you could say, for the last year, Vaughn. But I feel like now this is going to put the spark plug in right here and really get him to come back and get some vengeance of, you guys made the wrong decision. So even though it might have been a good decision for you guys in the long run, obviously as a player, you got to feel that way to spark that plug and really, get some motivation. So I feel like he's going to be doing great for the Grizzlies. So I feel like this is all kind of a win-all type of situation for both teams, even though it pulls a little bit of the heartstrings, Vaughn.
Utah don't really got nobody that I guess Laurie will probably be the guy.
Shout out to Nick.
Going back to the
Tony.
Yeah, Jaevon, read the comment for the audio-only listeners,
for
please.
our audio-only listeners, a viewer commented and said, the Jazz reportedly had a crazy package for Boston, too. They were super active, hecka interesting. I guess the only – if we were looking at a Porzingis type deal, it would have probably been for Laurie Markkinen, which would probably been crazy. All-star last year.
Damn right.
He's the finisher. He's doing some time in Finland. He's on the front lines out there. So
front lines, man. Crazy.
Let's wait for Laurie a little bit. But that would have probably been crazy if we would have got Laurie Markkinen, just based off of the year that he had, All-Star year.
That would not fit though.
He's probably like he's a younger Porzingis kind of on steroids, pretty much. I would say so. But that would have probably been an insane deal for sure. Because I don't really see anybody else we would have dealt for. Jordan Clarkson, Talon Horton Tucker, Colin Sexton, not really Even John Collins, I'd have been like, I'm good.
Yeah,
but
and
he wasn't traded. That trade just happened today, by the way. Sorry, we'll probably end that.
wow, look at that. Jaevon with the transitions. He already knew where we were headed next. As the news of today being Monday, June 26, 2023, is that John Collins was traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Utah Jazz for Rudy Gay and a future second-round pick. The first thing that I thought of when I saw that John Collins was traded is, number one, Monty McNair is looking for a bigger fish than John Collins to take up that $35 million. Also, the second thing that I thought of once I went onto social media is this amazing freezing cold take from the Atlanta Hawks Twitter account, where there was a photo of Kevin Durant on the Golden State Warriors standing next to I believe, rookie John Collins. And the tweet says, former MVP and future MVP. Jesus Christ, was that a terrible tweet.
Freezing cold take.
Super freezing. So, Gary, I want to get your thoughts on this one first. And what do you think about John Collins headed to Utah?
To be honest, I love John Collins as a player. I feel bad for him. That's how the league goes. I just feel bad. His name's been in the rumor mill for like 3 seasons straight now. So I'm happy about damn time to let him go and let him get a new fresh start somewhere else where somebody actually wants him. I feel like he's gonna. Jazz shocked a lot of teams last year. Shocked us. I know a lot of us on this whole panel. We thought they were gonna be lottery bound. I think the whole league thought they were gonna be lottery bound, to be honest. So them, showing that they were in it for majority of the year, then they were in it as obviously at the end. But them just obviously making those strides and winning and keeping a winning culture still alive in Utah, I feel like is great. I feel like bringing John Collins is going to be a great addition for this team to help them get more depth and just create more of identity for this team. So I think that's a win for the Jazz for getting him. Obviously, Hawks kind of gave him up for really nothing, which is kind of sucks. I know before this ticket was really high before to get John Collins. So obviously the ticket lowered on acquiring him, so that's good for the Jazz. But let's see what Atlanta does, to be honest, because Atlanta needs to make some move, guys. I know I think Vaughn loves him some Trae Young, so I just hope to see. I remember our guest, I'm forgetting his name right now, Shaun's friend who came on, Emiliano mentioning that a lot of transitions will be happening for Trae Young, that he might be traded or something like that. So let's see if those things are still in the rumor mill, or what is Atlanta doing, because they obviously clearly have to get better. And I feel like Trae Young, they should still be building around him. So let's see what help they can give him and Jonte.
And our guy Julian, who's tuned in on YouTube, he is one of the only Atlanta Hawks fans that I know. And he commented about the John Collins trade and said, it's a sad day today. Okay, Julian, what do we think? What do we think about the future of the Hawks, as Gary was just kind of alluding to there? And real quickly, before we pass it off to Kevin to get his thoughts about this trade, I wanted to mention a tweet from Kevin O'Connor, who's an NBA reporter. And this tweet gave me flashbacks to the Denver Nuggets lineup that we saw in the bubble that was full of centers and forwards, where the Nuggets put out a starting lineup of Nikola Jokic, Jeremy Grant, Bol, Paul Millsap, and Mason Plumlee. So the suggested lineup that Kevin O'Connor said he wants to see the Jazz have is my guy, Lauri Markkanen, at the point. Lauri Markkanen, who's like 6'8", 6'9", and a small forward. He said him at the point, Taylor Hendricks at shooting guard, Kelly Olynyk at small forward, John Collins at the 4, and Walker Kessler at center. That would definitely be very,
J, do you
very.
Or Shaun?
No. He writes about he writes about the NBA, but he is not breaking news. And so, if that's what you're asking me, the answer is no. Kevin, what do you think about this John Collins deal?
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When I saw John Collins traded to something for Rudy, I said, "There's no way he's going to the Timberwolves." I said, they just traded Rudy Gobert back-to-back summers. This dude's never gonna want to play basketball again. But going on to John Collins, going to the Jazz, they might have surprisingly one of the best front courts in the league. Laurie, you got John Walker Kessler. We really didn't get to see a lot of John Collins. The playing in Atlanta, playing with a ball dominant guy like Trae Young, you're really not going to be able to get your moments. Last year we talked about the Jazz tanking, and then they were en route for a play-in, and they went back to tanking again. So I don't really know what the Jazz have planned. They had a really good draft, bringing in Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks. So I don't know what they're doing here with this team, but they're building something spicy. And me and Toddy talked about on the last show. What do we do? What are they going to do with Colin Sexton? So there's a lot of questions around the Jazz, and Danny Ainge is that guy. So this is just one small game in his big old chessboard. So I'm excited to see what else the Jazz can bring in.
Jaevon, as the name that you and Kevin mentioned, was Danny Ainge. And so before we get your thoughts, it seemed like Gary wanted to say something.
No, I was just saying, let's not forget John Collins. Want to shout out him for his poster he had in the playoffs a couple years ago. Only when they went on that run. Huh? What'd you say, Vaughn? I said he had a couple posters, but where they put it on some T-shirts and we're talking shit in the playoffs. So I just remember that big part of John Collins of him doing that. So I just wanted to shout out him for doing that because I want to see that man in the playoffs again and doing this thing. So.
Yeah, he wore that shirt of him dunking on, I think it was in the Sixers series when they played the Philadelphia 76ers.
I think it was Joel he dunked on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was on Embiid. And so, yeah, he had the shirt ready to go for the next game. So back to you, Jaevon. You were mentioning ya boy, Danny Ainge, who is now running things in Utah. And so what do you think about the moves that the Jazz have been making, Jaevon?
They kind of been sneaky moves. A lot of people aren't really paying attention to it, but I know Danny Ainge. He was the former GM for the Boston Celtics, so he's going to try and accumulate picks, and he's going to wheel and deal for sure. The going joke about Danny Ainge is he trade his mom if he could. So I think Colin Sexton with the pick of Keontae George out of Baylor, I think that kind of screams Colin Sexton might be out of there. And given the offseason, he likes to wheel and deal, like I already said. So. John Collins being traded to the Jazz. I think that Shaun already mentioned that the Jazz are like the highest when it comes to cap space, so they're not really paying anybody.
They're up there.
I think that they're basically. I don't know if they can kind of recruit a guy to kind of come to Utah, but they can offer probably the most money to a player like that. So I don't know if they'll be like, hey, let's go to Utah. They're not really building anything right there. And next year. As the roster is constructed today, I'd say they're probably they're a play-in type team. They just missed the plan as of last year, so I think the Jazz can make a play-in. They were making a lot of noise earlier in the year. They kind of fell off towards the end of the year, but I think that this team can definitely, make a little bit of noise. John Collins can add a little bit of juice to them. I don't think that they're going to the finals, but I think they can, 10th, like they're like a 9th, 10th best team in the West right now.
So just to follow up on what Jaevon was saying with the Utah Jazz's cap projections, right now they are with the 6th most cap available going into this summer's free agency with $28.4 million. So it'll be interesting to see what the Utah Jazz continue to do as they continue to rebuild. So now getting to some other NBA free agency news, just real quickly before we close it out with our favorite 2 segments. I just wanted to mention some options that have been declined and just ask you guys about if any of these are significant. So a guy that we like to talk about a lot because Jaevon loves him is Kyle Kuzma, who declined his $13 million player option.
Get the Kuzma jersey ready, Kev.
We also have Bruce Brown, who declined his $6.8 million player option with the Denver Nuggets. We'll see if he comes back. Otherwise, he lied to the crowd in Denver. Chris Middleton, he declined his $40 million player option, as was mentioned earlier, but he's getting up there in age and likely just wants a longer-term deal with the money more spread out. And finally, this was a team option that was declined as the Knicks declined Derrick Rose's team option. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends
Phoenix.
up. Okay, Phoenix. Jaevon, tell us why you think he's going to go to Phoenix and if you have any other thoughts on any of these other options that were declined.
Ring chasing. They need to fill out that roster. So they just need bodies. They need more point guards. Derrick Rose, why not go to Phoenix, play with KD, Beal, and Blue.
Very cool.
Him and Russ.
And another guy. There's another guy that's on that list. So I saw John Wall could probably be another the whole Brad connection there. So
it's the West Coast Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. Going to a couple of the other things that you were saying. I think that wow, I really just lost my train of thought there.
Kuzma?
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma. I think he's out of. I think he kind of wants to win. Him. Winning a ring pretty young, kind of getting that taste and feeling like, hey, maybe I can go somewhere and win. Why not be able to go to the Kings? Like I said, I've been screaming it previously in the show since All-Star break. Kuzma would be a pretty good fit for you guys. Is it for $20 million? Because he said he wants more. He said he wants 30. I don't know if he's going to get 30. He might get 20, but 30 might be a little bit more than what I projected. But Chris Middleton, could he be a guy for the Kings? I'm not sure. I'm really to see. This isn't where who are the Kings going to get segment. This is a where do you think they're going to go? But I think Chris Middleton ultimately resigns probably with the Bucks. He declined $40 million, which is insane to me. So he's looking for a little bit more money than that. Not coming off the best year to be declining that $40 million option. Maybe he's just looking for a long-term deal. So we'll see where that takes them. But that's pretty much what I'd say. Okay, Kevin, what you think about all the guys that Shaun kind of was breaking down a little bit?
I think the biggest thing was Chris Middleton. But once Shaun kind of mentioned, I've been hearing it a lot by the talking heads and all these talk shows that he just wants to stay in Milwaukee. This is where he wants to retire. He just wants to spread it out. Kyle Kuzma, I think, was another big one. I honestly kind of agree with Todd. He wants to win. When you're a young player and you win early, you get all the success early, then you get shipped off to Washington, and it's honestly the complete opposite. So you went from La to having Rihanna sitting courtside to having empty courtside seats. So Kyle Kuzma has seen it all, and he wants to get paid now. Like Toddy mentioned, Toddy was the lone person on this podcast saying that he should be an all-star, and he was really hooping the Kuzmania, and you would have thought it was the Summer League, his rookie year all over again. So I just think that Kuz has a really bright future. I don't think it's particularly in the Kings' best interest. Like Toddy mentioned, he wants that $30 million number, and that's almost all of our cap space. I don't know if we're going to go all in on Kyle Kuzma. I don't know if he's that missing piece for us, but he can step in for Pascal, OG. I mean, like Uncle Manny said, the Kings can go shopping. Gary,
shopping, baby.
What are your thoughts on the guys declining these declining the options?
Like you mentioned, already Kuzma and Bruce Brown and Middleton. Again, I feel like they're all just obviously opting out to get a bigger bag and longer-term deals. Again, I'll go through. Like you guys mentioned, I'm pretty much on the same road as you guys with Middleton. I feel like he's going to stay as a Buck, but if someone can give him a big bag, I wouldn't. In his situation, it's like he wants to stay a Buck, but at the same time, do the Bucks want him to be a Buck? That's what I'm kind of thinking. Like, do they still? Obviously, I feel like they should rock with their guy and they trust their guy. But then again, I know people have been saying this team's been aging out. That's just kind of like the outside looking in type of thing. And they've been dealing with injuries. Obviously, had a big time injury last year, so I feel like they should still believe in him. Usually, like me, Vod, I think he preaches the same thing. Players with that big type of injury, you at least need like another year to get really back to themselves, especially in the NBA. So I feel like this next year he'll be maybe tuned back to where he was before the injury. So I still believe in him. So I feel like he should stay with the Bucks and still help Giannis and things of that nature because they've already built something great there. But then again, they gotta toe that line between keeping this letting it get too old. You know what I'm saying? You want to keep it. You want to keep Giannis happy, like we said. Keep Giannis happy, or he's going to pull LeBron and leave. So, Bruce Brown, I feel like he just upped his bag all the way. He just got so when he was doing the playoffs, he was one of those back-breaking players. Like, bro, Bruce Brown just scored, bro. Just really just killed your whole team's momentum. If you was either killed your momentum if the other team, or just sparked another whole wave of momentum for the Nuggets. So he's a guy who's going to be who's going to be wanted a lot of places, which as he should. And again, I think you guys hit on the money with Kuz. I think Kuz, he's a winning type player. If you really hear him speaking things of that nature, I feel like
he's got championship experience.
Yeah, exactly. And people try to feel like when you're a Laker, you get so much different types of criticism and things of that nature. I feel like if you listen to him speaking things of that nature, other than when he gets on Dimwitty and him and Dimwitty going back and forth. Other than that, I feel like he's a wise guy, who wants to be winning and help a team win as well as know his value in this league, that he can score the ball and really help a team on both sides of the ball when he's locked in and when he wants to be. So I feel like all three of those guys are going to go get the bag here soon. On which team, we'll see. Free agency, it's a lot of misdirection, a lot of people throwing a lot of things out there. So let's see once the dust settles by the time next podcast, what we're going to be having and where people are going to land. It's going to be really interesting, guys. Again, the Kings, I know Vaughn mentioned this is the Kings 7 seed we get. Your guys already mentioned Siakam. So many guys we can get. Again, I've been preaching. I feel like, we should get Brook Lopez. I don't know. I guess I feel like it's really helpful for our teams. It can help Sabonis on the back end, obviously on the defense for rim protection, can spread the ball obviously with a 3-pointer and things of that nature. But I heard some of the days like, I think I seen Brian Winters. Isn't that the kind of same thing they did in Indiana with Miles Turner? So that's what kind of got me like, you kind of right. But then again, it's a whole different system, whole different coach, whole different dynamic with De'Aaron Fox and Herter and Monk also being shooters and slashers to the rim. So I thought we got a whole different dynamic. So we could be able to take that guy who's also a championship winning player. So let's just hope our Kings can make some great moves here to keep pushing towards the championship. So
hot take: if Middleton does not re-sign, do the Kings go all in and bring in the freak?
The freak? Oh, we can give all in to
Giannis?
Giannis?
Keegan, Davion, every first you want. Everybody can
Send
go.
the whole thing.
Herter, everybody can go. They can rebuild off this one trade.
Why would he? How?
Sean
If they don't bring Chris back and Drew's on his
Fox,
way out.
Sabonis, and for Greek Freak?
Oh,
that's dangerous.
I don't know.
I am not even going to address that question. I'm not even going to address that question. That is one of those guys that is untouchable, and Milwaukee will not move him. And if they ever did move him, why would he want to come to Sacramento?
LA.
He likes Sacramento.
He likes
we got the money. We winning. We up and coming.
Gary was talking about praying. That's where the prayers need to come in. It's for for a move like that. But we're running out of time as we're nearing the 2-hour mark here on episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. So time to get to our favorite 2 recurring segments. And if you have been watching before, then you know what this music means. It's time for Fact or Cap with Kevin.
Go with the bullshit.
Hope it's not
back at it again.
Man.
Fact or cap. So, with the draft coming up this week, I'm going to start it off with a nice, easy draft question. The Portland Trailblazers will keep Scoot Henderson and trade Damian Lillard. Fact or cap? Gary, I'm going to go to you first.
Thank God it wasn't a list. I was like, let me start getting something together real quick. Fact. I think I think Chris Haynes tweeted today or something like that, that I'm pretty sure they're having meetings, the Trailblazers and Dame said it. I'm like, whatever they do with the pick, we're gonna have a post meeting. He basically told you what was gonna happen, and we're gonna go from there. He's been pretty clear. Obviously, they're in a dance in a limbo between, because obviously Dame has been on the I don't want to leave here, I want to be in Portland and help win a championship stance. And obviously the Trailblazers don't want to look bad saying that they traded their guy away. So someone's going to have to, it's almost likely like it's like the Beal thing. It's going to be a mutual where they're going to try to say, hey, we'll get him where you want him to go. Hey, can we get some things to help us out too? Maybe it might not be the best of deals because they're going to try to honor Dame. Even though he doesn't have the funny thing, he doesn't have a trade clause, but he kind of does because his contract is so big that's like, a team's going to want to know if he wants to stay there and be there before they trade for this huge amount of money they're going to be on the books for. So I feel like in a way he kind of got a little bit of a no trade clause. So I feel like we're going to see him in Miami. We're going to see him welcome to Miami. I don't know if y'all seen something on Instagram. I think Jimmy was playing Dame's song, and then I guess Dame was playing something, Welcome to Miami song in the background when he's visiting something. You know me, I'll be off of social media just in and out with it. But hey, I feel like him in Miami would just be so beautiful. Like Dame, I think is most nervous every time you hear him speak. I love hearing Dame speak, especially being a Northern California kid. When he just talks about like, if I go somewhere and it can mess up, like basically saying Russell Westbrook and all his players who have been places that doesn't turn out how you want it to be. That's the highest percentage right there. It's gonna turn out a place that already has great leadership, has some dogs, and we already know Dame's a dog too, who just want to win. You can just tell that's a Dame type team for him to fit in. And man, I don't think no one should look at him wrong. And like we said, we want to see him in prime time. We seen him in, people kind of act like hasn't been in prime time. Like he only missed the playoffs like 2-3 times his whole career. But when they talk about, they want to see him in the finals. They want to see him we actually been to the Western Conference Finals before against the Warriors, and that didn't turn out good. But as for they want to see him on the big stage on the finals. So let's see Dame. Fact, he's going to be on the Miami Heat. Bookie.
All right, Shaun, I'm going to go to you next. Fact or cap, will the Portland Trailblazers keep Scoot Henderson and trade Damian Lillard?
I just want for everyone to know, just for the record, that this instrumental that we have for Factor Cap. It's about 2 minutes long. So when we heard the whole thing play through during Gary's answer, that means that it's probably been a long answer. But Gary said everything for me. You know, I'm going to say it's a fact. The Trailblazers will keep Scoot Henderson and trade Damian Lillard because unlike the Charlotte Hornets, I mean, there wasn't a Brandon Miller to choose other than Scoot Henderson, but the Portland Trailblazers made the right move by drafting best available player. Now they have Anthony Simons, they have your boy Shaden Sharp, they have Scoot Henderson now, so they have some pieces to build with and to restart really, and to get a fast restart. And so I think that they're going to end up keeping Scoot. Dame, it's time. He did everything he could. I'm not even trying to make a bad pun with Dame time, but like it's time for him to go because like they did between the Trailblazers organization. I mean, they didn't do that much, but it seems like they did about all they could, and Dame has waited long enough. It's time for him to go to South Beach.
Welcome to
Miami.
All right, Toddy. Are you going to make it 3 for 3? Factor cap. Are the Portland Trailblazers going to keep Scoot Henderson and trade Damian Lillard?
I'm going to say fact. The writing's on the wall. Even though Chris Haynes did report, kind of like while we were reporting, he said that the GM, Joe Cronin, basically said that they talked to Dame and said that they are committed to building a championship roster around Dame. This is not a championship roster.
Cap!
So that screams cap for sure. I just think it's just a tale between both sides. No one really wants to say, I don't think Dame wants to come out and say, trade me. I want to be traded. And I don't think that the Portland Trailblazers want to say, all right, we're going to trade Dame. I think it's just going to happen. I think they're probably in the works of probably facilitating the trade. It's just, just time for Dame to do. I'm starting to agree with Gary a lot more. I usually don't agree with him. But Kevin's been making, something he's been saying has kind of been making me nervous. So I'm going to say the fact that Damian Lillard gets traded.
I'm going to have to make it unanimous. I think it's a fact. Like we all mentioned, the young team that they already have, bringing out Dame and bringing in a lot of – we saw Rudy Gobert go for 5 picks. So for them, the Blazers to be able to get a haul with a young coach and Chauncey Billups, I think that can really take them a long way. And it's a good way to a good ending to the story instead of Dame being a diva and coming out saying he wants to be traded, or the Blazers just saying, fucking, we're sending you for the best pick. You can go play it with Wemby, or you can go play in the Bobcats. We're just going to send you somewhere. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say facts.
Yeah, so, I think this is more of I want him to be that. But go ahead, Kev.
So moving on to the next question. This is a football and basketball question. Kevin Durant is under more pressure to win a champion this season than Aaron Rodgers. Toddy, I'm going to go to you first.
Ooh,
you said Kevin Durant is basically, he has more pressure than Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to say Cap. I think Aaron Rodgers is under immense pressure, just being best quarterback since Joe Namath to be on the Jets, bro. So it just got announced that the Jets are probably going to be hard. It's going to be very interesting to see what that whole dynamic of what that team's going to look like in the summer, just going into the season, and Zach Wilson giving Aaron Rodgers hell for the entire series, because that's what he said. Whoever they bring in, I'm going to give him hell. So I'm going to say Cap. I think Aaron Rodgers is under immense pressure in the Big Apple.
All right, Shaun, I'm going to go to you next. Is Kevin Durant under more pressure to win a championship next season than Aaron Rodgers? Fact or cap?
I'm gonna go with Cap as well. I think that Aaron Rodgers is under more pressure, because let's not forget that this is what Kevin Durant's like 5th, 6th team. Let's count: Oklahoma City, Golden State, Brooklyn. Okay, 4 teams. Only been 4 teams. So this is his 4th team. This is Aaron Rodgers' 2nd team. This is also Aaron Rodgers' 1st year with his new team. Even Kevin Durant had like a third of last season to get used to the Phoenix organization. And so I'm gonna say Cap, because just everyone thinks that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Jets' savior.
I'm not gonna lie, guys.
Coming to you next. Fact or cap? Is Kevin Durant under more pressure to win than Aaron Rodgers?
I keep going back and forth in my mind, Kev. I'm not gonna lie. Like, first I was gonna say agree with these guys and say Cap that Aaron Rodgers has more pressure. It's because, again, he hasn't won a ring in so long. He's becoming a Jet. But then again, I'm like, Right, you ain't getting past Patrick Mahomes. You ain't getting past Josh Allen. So how much real pressure is it? Like, there's so many guys he has to get past to get that. So I feel like the pressure is not high. But like Kevin Durant got multiple rings, things of that nature. But I'm gonna say fact, Kev. I'm gonna end up saying fact. I'm gonna say fact because I feel like Kevin Durant has just a little bit more pressure. I don't hate the word pressure, but he has a little bit more on his shoulders just because, again, like Shaun mentioned, multiple teams now. Can he? Well, the question: can he win outside of Golden State? His team really only got to go through, I think, the heavy favorite, like we mentioned before, when his first team happened in the West, just only one team to go through when Aaron Rodgers has a few teams to go through in terms of on their side of them, the West and the AFC. So, you know what? It's going to be a tough one, but I think I'm going to say fact. I guess Kevin Durant has just a little bit more on his shoulders than Aaron Rodgers does, even though Aaron Rodgers still needs a second ring that would help his career out.
Man, I thought we were all going to be thinking like Gary because I 100% with Gary. I think this is a fact. I believe Kevin Durant is under more pressure to win than Aaron Rodgers. We slander Kevin Durant's name. He's played with this player, fill in the blank. He's even double back and spin the block to play with some of his guys. So he has always been kind of said as a bus driver. He's not a bus driver. He's never been able to do it on his own. And I feel like if Aaron Rodgers loses this season, we're going to look at young guys like Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson and say, you know, they're young guys. They don't have the experience. But when we look on that Phoenix era, that Suns team, DeAndre Ayton, finals experience. Devin Booker, finals experience. Kevin Durant, finals experience. Bradley Beal. You guys were arguing that he was a top 25 basketball player. So now they arguably have 3 top 25 basketball players. There is no athlete on this universe with more pressure to win than Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns. Gary, what were you thinking?
I got to sneak this on Shaun real quick. So I was going to be like, I guess, you know, the top 3, the third best player, you know, can't have that much pressure. I think that's what Shaun's thinking. The third best player can't have to. Hey, Kevin Durant, just let you know, man, I love you. I just can't wait till you get on one of these guys. He tweets back at us and we blow up, and it's going to be a whole thing on Twitter that I'm just going to be laughing at. But again, Shaun, again, third best player again. You sticking with that one? I know you try to amend it on Twitter. I seen that. Trying to put some caveats for them to win. It's going to be the best. No, you said third best player. But anyways, go ahead.
We're over 2 hours, so I'm going to leave that be. But,
I know you.
I just want to follow up on about Kevin Durant. Is that I don't know. You guys probably saw it. I don't know if all of our listeners saw it, but Kevin Durant just loves to jump in random Twitter spaces that are slandering his name. It's a shame that he can't just join our stream without an invite, but he can join the YouTube comments. So maybe this is Kevin Durant under an account called The Huddle that says, hi.
That's Hunter.
Cap. And I know you saw Gary. What's up with Hunter? We appreciate you tuning in. But anyways, it's a shame that he can't join our stream without an invite. But if Kevin Durant ever wants to join Stats Over Politics, he is more than welcome. And he can take a crap over any opinion that I have because we would love to have him on the show. Take it back, Kevin.
All right, Gary, I'm gonna lob you this TikTok clip. Fact or cap? Would it be a mistake for the Lakers to run it back with the same core?
Fact or cap? Would it be? Oh,
define core.
Yeah,
they had guys with Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Austin Reeves, Michael Beasley. They had basically essentially running back with the same
Malik Beasley.
So essentially running back with the same team.
Yeah, fact. This would be a mistake. I like the guys that have Kev. I don't know which way you're leaning, but I like the guys that have. I do want them to keep a lot of those guys, but I do feel like they are one piece away to becoming a championship team, even though they're obviously knocking on the door of the Western Conference Finals with, Nuggets in the way. They would have been in the finals, but obviously with them getting swept or not, I know they got swept, but it wasn't as bad as swept as it looked like on paper because every game was within like 5 points, something like that. So they're really close, especially with all the trade acquisitions they made at the deadline because all these guys that got the deadline. So I do like their core, Kev. They would be a mistake, fact, because they can't run it fully back. They do need a couple more pieces still. I feel like a Kyrie piece or maybe just if they keep the same guys, they just need like a couple more pieces. I feel like to help them get over the hump. So I feel like fact it's gonna be a big mistake if they just run it the same exact squad back because LeBron, AD's getting older. You still need a little bit more help, especially if you didn't get over the hump. So it just makes sense that they need to add something.
All right, Teddy, I will go to you next. Fact or cap? Would it be a mistake for the Lakers to keep the same core and run it back?
Got me agreeing with Gary again. I got a fact on this one. The core, I think, is Austin Reeves, LeBron, AD. I feel like that's the core. Everything around it can go. So I don't know if I'm not hearing anything about Kyrie to the Lakers, but you'd love to see that. Not really too much traction around the Lakers. You're kind of seeing the West kind of get better. Obviously, the Nuggets are the champions, and we saw, Bradley Beal go to the Suns. I wouldn't know if this is an upgrade or just a lateral move, but the Warriors getting CP3. You're just seeing, teams in the West kind of be aggressive and make trades, and the Lakers are, kind of just staying put. Is this are we going to see a Kyle Kuzma reunion in the Lakers? I don't know. Maybe, perhaps. Probably not. But you're curious to see what else the Lakers do, other than re-sign Austin Reeves. Don't know too much on what this team will look like. I think this team will for sure be different by the start of next year, but don't know too much what they're going to look like. So I think it'd probably be a mistake considering that they got swept with the same team. So I'm going to say fact. It would be a mistake.
I also think that it's a fact as well, because we all saw the progress that the Lakers made in the second half of the season after the trade deadline. Like, Rob Pelinka probably had one of the best trade deadlines in recent memory. So much so that the two, Jaevon, what's your terminology that you use for the LeBron fans?
The LeBronologists.
The LeBronologists.
Our two resident LeBronologists, they love the move so much that they both picked a 7 seed from the play-in tournament to win it all. And they made it to the conference finals, which is pretty damn good for a play-in team. So I can't talk shit about the pick. But they made those picks because of how well these moves worked. And one of the names that Kevin didn't mention in this core is D'Angelo Russell. That's a big question mark, my guy from the Ohio State University. But it'll be interesting to see what ultimately is this Lakers core. But from what we saw in the second half of last season, it would be a huge mistake to try and break that up and not at least give them one full season to try and build that chemistry and then see what happens in the playoffs. Because without any chemistry, they made it to the conference finals, and that's pretty damn good.
I'm going to say Cap. I think it's going to be a huge mistake to not run this back. I think that they were they were the best defensive team in the NBA after the trade deadline. Like Shaun mentioned, they built this chemistry without having a full season together. So if you put this full team together and really give them another shot at it, I think they're going to play great. D'Angelo Russell's the name that we got brought up that I forgot to mention. Played really well in the regular season, like Gary mentioned on past podcasts. He had one bad series, and now they're trying to ship him off like Jordan Poole. You have to just stick to trust the process and know that LeBron's not going to have a torn ligament in his foot. And hopefully next season when they're playing the Nuggets, hopefully in the Western Conference Finals, they can get over that hump.
I think, Shaun, did you mean to say Cap now? That's what you meant, right?
Did I mean to say Cap? It would be a mistake for the Lakers to run it back. Oh,
you want them to keep it, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I misunderstood. Yeah, that's
not a feeling. I was like, I had a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely. I forgot the question that was even on the ticker. Apparently, I'm not very proficient at reading once we get past 2 hours. So there you go. Anyways, that'll do it for fact or cap for another week. So we appreciate you guys for participating as always. Now it's time to get to my favorite segment, and Kevin is also behind Command Central right now as he was clicking his questions for fact or cap. So I had to make sure not to put the questions into our little banner rundown. Otherwise, Kevin would have got a sneak peek, and we don't want Kevin to get a sneak peek because he was already.
That's what
Kevin was
the entire time.
We just started doing this episode.
Yeah, him clicking his own questions just started like today, but also before that, I already knew beforehand that Kevin also was behind Command Central, and so I haven't put the questions in early for since probably the first episode of Shaun's Pop, or the first edition of Shaun's Pop Quiz. Because I don't want to give you more of an opportunity than they have because you're already doing well
Gary
enough.
Was hating on me, saying I've been cheating.
Gary was, yeah. All right, so I'm going to mix things up this week, and I'm going to run it back to how it used to be with our leader going first with the first question, and then whoever's in second, and then whoever is in third. So just an update on the leaderboard. You like how I said third, not last? Just an update on the leaderboard after 35 episodes. Kevin's at 20. Toddy's at 15, and Gary is salty that he has 12, and he is in last.
Not enough games played.
Not enough games played. He didn't meet the criteria.
So let's kick things off with our leader, who was shivering a moment ago because it is very lonely at the top, as he likes to say. So, Kevin, as you can see on the little tick, it's not a ticker, but it's I think it's called a cryon or whatever it is with the graphic at the bottom. Anyways, point is, it says NBA Draft Edition Part 2. So we know that these will be NBA draft questions. You guys said that you enjoyed last week's episode with the draft questions. So let's run it back. Kevin, this former Defensive Player of the Year was taken with the 6th overall pick in the 2014 NBA Draft. Toddy, I acknowledge you for the steal. Go ahead, Kevin. This is your question. I'll read it one more time. This former Defensive Player of the Year was taken with the 6th overall pick in the 2014 NBA Draft. So, Kevin, you now have a chance to answer the question. Who do you think this player is?
I think I'm overthinking this, so I'm going to go with Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. That is correct.
I was about to say, this is good. This is coming too easy.
The first game doesn't come to me.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck you.
I actually thought that was one of the harder ones.
Sean's quiz is over, guys. Good tuning in.
We have history, ladies and gentlemen. Sean has dropped out.
I know Sean has never dropped out.
Sean has never dropped out. He's gonna blame his mom's Wi-Fi. Mom's gonna listen to this and be.
I know, right?
Let's see what he says. For the audio only listeners, Sean dropped out. Just
first time on the docket.
This is the first time in history this has ever happened.
This is actually the second time that it has happened, and the cause for it was the exact same thing that caused the first one. I have a MacBook Air, and on the little swipe pad, I used 3 fingers to go from screen to screen. I was trying to just move to my other screen. I don't know. It's basically the equivalent of me hitting the back button on the browser. And so that's what happened. I'm just glad that me falling out didn't end the stream. Anyways, good job, Kevin. Kevin gets a point. So now Kevin is up to 21 points.
21. Can you do something for me?
36 episodes in, Kevin has 21 points. So now it's time to get to our second question. This goes to Jaevon, who is currently in second place. Here's your question, Jaevon. This multiple-time All-Star was taken with the 6th overall pick in the 2012 NBA Draft.
6th overall, 2012.
Didn't know it, right, Sean?
What's that? I think I know mine.
I got you, Gary. My bad. I was looking over at my other screen. So, Toddy,
Klay Thompson?
This isn't very good content with the dead air, so do you have an answer?
Klay Thompson?
Klay Thompson is incorrect, but you were kind of in the ballpark. Gary, you put your finger up first to steal the question, I believe. So, Gary, I'll give you the first crack at it, and then Kevin will have a chance after. I'll repeat the question one more time for our audio-only listeners. This multiple-time All-Star was taken with the 6th overall pick in the 2012 NBA Draft. Gary, what is the answer?
Kristaps Porzingis?
That is incorrect. Kevin, do you have a guess?
I think this is another easy one. I'm going to go Bradley Beal.
That is incorrect. Jaevon, do you want to circle back, or does any? I'll give you each one more guess.
Damian Lillard?
That was my next guess. I won't be helping that.
I know we got 2 guesses though. That's crazy. But we can get it.
Shut up, Kevin.
Well, Kevin, everyone else had a guess, so we just circled back around. I wanted to see if someone could get that one. So there you go. Toddy gets the point. He's now up to 16 as Gary shakes his head.
You know why?
So hard. What?
Because I was trying to outthink Sean. Like, maybe he's doing the connections, like Marcus Smart, Porzingis in a trade. He wanted to do the connection, then answer. So I was like, Porzingis. Because the first ask what I got from my mom, I was thinking, dang. I was like, there's no connection here for Sean to put at the end. There's no connection. I was like, I tried to outsmart you right there, Shaun. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, well, I hope you learned your lesson.
You can't outsmart Shaun. I remember one of them. All the answers were Caitlin Clark.
Damn right. You're right when you think you know.
I thought.
I switch it up.
I'm about to backdoor Shaun right here. I got his whole answer book now. He's trying to pick all the people that got traded this weekend. Go ahead.
So, Gary, you now have your question because you were in last place. You get to go third. So here's Gary's question, and Kevin and Jaevon, I'll keep an eye out for one of you trying to steal the question, but I'll read it first. So here it is. This multiple-time All-Star was taken with the 4th overall pick in the 2005 NBA draft. Kevin, got you.
Why my finger went up first?
What? Jaevon, you got it. Jaevon, you're like barely in the frame. If you're Jaevon, if your hand is down here, but I can barely there. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Toddy, I did see that, but I wasn't sure if that was you signaling. So I will acknowledge Toddy had it first, then Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin. So anyways, I saw him put up his finger, but I thought he was just holding the mic. Like I thought he was like.
You giving Gary
what holding the mic?
You can Gary a lot.
Anyways.
I'm over here stuck, man. I'm like, who took 5?
Yeah, Gary's like, hey guys, can you keep arguing so then I have more time to think?
That's a long time. He's been in the league for a while. Is he still in the league? Man, I don't even know.
All right, Gary, it's time for your answer, so then we can get out of here. That is correct.
That was a guess. It could be.
Well, nice job. Gary gets a point. So far, everyone's gotten a point. That's awesome. So now Gary gets a point.
Toddy has an asterisk by his point. Toddy got to guess twice. You can't even take your driving test back to back. You got to wait a couple days.
It's just not the road.
I got 0. So I will just about that. I will say that on my actual driving test, hands-on, I had 0 errors. But it took me 5 times to pass the permit test, and I had to wait a week in between every single time.
We just got Toddy guessing 2 seconds, huh?
It was rough.
It's a cold world.
I know.
Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, we do have a bonus question. So this is it for this episode of Stats Over Politics.
You don't get to guess.
As you guys know, with bonus questions, it is a free-for-all. So I will keep an eye out for
Watch
who
the
I
left
see.
corner. My finger's coming up.
All right.
Yeah,
everyone, hands at your waist.
Y'all told me this, bro. I literally go like this and hit my home face. I went like this, hit myself. I was like, y'all, thank God y'all missed that.
All right. Well, I have learned from Kevin, and I am not going to click the question until I read it. So here we go. This future All-Star was taken with the 4th overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft. Jaevon, I see you.
He said.
You said 2015 or 2016?
I'm not. No, you put your hand up like you knew it, so I'm not going to tell you. No.
Multiple-time All-Star?
Kristaps Porzingis.
So I'll reread the question for Gary because Gary wanted to know what it said. This future All-Star was taken with the 4th overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft. Jaevon said Kristaps Porzingis, and ding, 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 that is correct. As Jaevon gets another point.
What you gotta say about that one, huh, Kev?
So it was. I caught you, Shaun. I did catch your connection, buddy, old pal. I just caught the wrong time.
Gary was on to me. Gary was on to me. I wanted this week's edition. I wanted this week's edition to be a little bit of a cakewalk. I'm glad that you guys got all 4 questions. Even though that second one that Kevin wants to put an asterisk on, you guys struggled with that one, but it's okay. All 4 questions were answered. All 4 questions were correct. And yeah, Gary, you caught on to what I did. I did it about all the players who were traded in the last week. I thought about Jordan Poole at 28, but I was like, that one's kind of obvious because it was really recent.
This NBA champion.
Yeah, exactly right. So anyways, that is it for Shaun's Pop Quiz. After 36 episodes, Kevin is still lonely at the top with 21, but Jaevon is starting to creep up on him with 17, and Gary has 13. So everyone is separated by 4. So Jaevon is 4 points out of first place, and Garry is 4 points out of second place. So there you go. We shall see.
To even up with Kev.
Whoa.
So we have some
Hey.
good competition at the end. When are we gonna restart this thing? 'Cause I need to restart.
He said, "When we go restart."
You know, with Shannon and Skip, like, did they ever pay their due bet? I've been wondering that to this day. I'm like, did they ever pay the due bet off? Like, come on now. Before regular season, maybe I would inquire if we could start over. Kev, we'll give you the first championship.
Garry, I don't know if you would want to do that. Maybe I guess you could do it before the NFL season, but when the basketball season starts, that may not be a wise idea for you because then you'll end up in the same exact scenario as last time. And why you complain so much?
Oh yeah, missing games. You're right. I'm gonna say though, let's just do it before the playoff. Football around the corner. There you go.
Okay, hold on.
Over.
Okay, I was about to ask Jaevon and Kevin. Kevin says no on starting over. Jaevon, what do you think? Should this be a season thing, or should we just have a running score for the duration of this podcast, no matter how long this podcast goes for? Years, months? What do you think, Jaevon?
It's a cold world.
Ooh, it's a cold world for you, Garry. It's a cold world. Jaevon is nipping at Kevin's.
I gotta basically play that Kevin stumbles up. You too, man.
First to 100.
Stumbles up.
There you go. First to 100. There you go, Kevin. That's a good answer.
Beat him, and then I'll be like, all right, we should start over.
Yeah, the moment I start losing, I'm like, yeah, fuck this. Let's start over.
Nope. We just said it right there. First to 100. So there you go. Kevin is a fifth of the way there as he has 21. Jaevon has 17. Garry has 13. And
8 straight.
That's going to do it for episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. Any final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here? Last week was a long episode, and we damn near matched it.
Yes. For everyone who doesn't follow Toddy on Twitter, he thought Gilbert Arenas' jersey was retired. I just want everyone to know that.
I thought it was.
For what? Bringing a gun in the locker?
Hey, Gilbert is good. He got the bucket getter, kid.
He ain't that good.
They brought him back to Orlando.
He's a bucket getter.
Not to Orlando, to Washington. I thought they retired his jersey.
Baby, my respect, baby.
All right, well,
that's not insane to say.
That is insane to say. It's almost as insane as saying Dalvin Cook's top 5 running back.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't go across that take. A lot of people. We looking right on that, kid. We looking right on that one.
Bro, no.
All right, well, we got plenty of time to revisit it. So we got all the summer months coming up, especially at the end of July, as Kevin and I were talking about earlier. So we got plenty of time to talk football. Brock Purdy is throwing. Jaevon, I didn't mention that because I didn't want to just get screamed at for saying, why is this a topic? This isn't relevant. So thank you, Jaevon, for mentioning that. At the end of every episode of Shaun and Vaughn, Jaevon would always give us some 49ers news. So thank you for continuing that tradition. Anyways, that's going to do it for episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. If you like the show, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on Twitter at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. If you're enjoying the show, give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you have been tuned in to episode number 36 of Stats Over Politics. For Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, and Garry Singh, I am Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week on another episode of Stats Over Politics.
Peace. Appreciate it.